Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a brand new returning series for Australasian Sim Racing. The return of the Super Series. Back once more, a classic from 2018, seeing the Lancer R and the Lancer RS pitted against each other with a massive grid of cars. The registrations for this one has been off the hook. It is going to be an awesome series, and joining us, thank you for joining us on Endurance Chat Media as we take you through our first go at a fully fledged Australasian sim racing campaign. My name is Michael Zalavari. Later on, I'll be joined tonight by Mr. Steve DeFries, and we'll be here to take you through tonight's action. So, for those who are not aware, the Super Series is a return of a series that proved very popular in 2018, as I made mention. It's a two-class structured series based around the Mitsubishi Lancer RS and the Lancer R. So, a purpose-built racing spec and a series spec that you would have seen on this channel back in the TCAC all-wheel drive days. So that's the two classes we've got. At the minute, we've actually got about 12 cars running the Lancer Lancer RS, and the rest of the field running the Lancer R for an incredible grid at the moment of 22 cars. So quite a number of people tonight joining for the first round of the Super Series. We'll get into the format for the evening before Nether joins us. And here is Mallala Motorsport Park. So we'll kill two birds with one stone here. Mallala Motorsport Park, one of South Australia's main racetracks, owned by the Shahins, the same family that own the Bend nowadays, and used more so as a state series track and a test day track, or as a private ride day track. It's a cute little bullring, truth be told. It's got some really nice flowing sections that run through turn 1 into 2, is something that only those who are very brave will get through very nicely. The hairpin at 5 is a lot tighter than it looks, and that very difficult section, the last sector, 7, 8, and 9, with a fast run onto what is the main straight. Now, the race format tonight, we have a 10-minute qualifying session, which will provide the grid for race 1. Race 2 will see a full reverse grid set per class. So that means that all of the RS classes will start ahead of the Class R cars, and it will be a reverse grid from that. And then race 3 will be a progressive grid from race 2. And they're short, quick-fire races. They're all going to be about 40 kilometers. So 16 laps of this 2.601 kilometer circuit. As of this point, there are no championship standings to have a look at because, of course, it's a brand new championship. So what we'll actually do is we'll have a quick look to see the cars that are on the field, and we'll take you through the practice grid as it has been so far. So here we have the Synergy Sim Racing cars. Oh, maybe we don't. Brendan Hobson currently leading off Scott Nolan. So they would be very familiar faces for anyone who's seen the TCAC streams. Luke Rosella is currently in 3rd. Then Colin Warwick in the Warwick Racing Team RS. So you can see the RS model has the wider front splitter, the rear wing, of course, and a few extra horses underneath the hood. Damien Rasmussen, Dane Liccardo sitting in 6th place at the minute. And then Brendan Ross, Brenton Foley in the PBF Racing Machine, who is the reason that my frames are stuttering so much, because he's running a very high livery, a full high poly livery, so that's great. Lachlan Burke, we found him off in the gravel. Now, the gravel traps are actually sand traps here at Mallala, so they really trap your car. Nathan Higginson currently in the pits. A lot of drivers in the pits. Luke Joyner, Tim Redmond. He will be the first of the R-Spec runners. The Lancer R, you can see right next to the RS, a smaller rear wing and a smaller front end. Really does look like a road-going machine. Steve Verco, Steve Warwick currently in the pits with Termo, Lachlan Locke, and Darren Kemp, Matt Cecil, nice looking car there for Matt Cecil. Brock Harvey, the return of Brock Harvey. So he's jumped out for a run. Brian Walsh, Justin Cecil, Glenn Miles, and Ben Hull. And Rhodey is our 25 car grid as we've got 30 seconds left in practice. And just while we've got the camera on Rhodey, it is pertinent to note that today is Mr. Benjamin Rhodes' birthday. So happy birthday, Rhodey. Hope that you get gifted the joy of a good race, whatever that looks like for you tonight, as we watch him through the final sector, getting up on two wheels very nicely. Probably should also have the car sounds as well. That would be very, very helpful. So if you are new to us at Endurance Chat, firstly, welcome. We used to do the Oz TCAC Championship as the qualifying session comes to, the practice session rather comes to an end. So we'll go to our first holding screen. We did the TCAC streams, which were held on a Wednesday night. Unfortunately, both mine and Kiwi Chris, who still somehow managed to find a way to sneak away from tonight's action, but for a good reason this time, instead of all of the kerfuffles of our TCAC Retro series. We found that Tuesday night would work better, so we've been given this series to commentate on and officiate, or to commentate on at least, and to stream. And so this will be our baby for the rest of the season. But of course, with Mr. Kiwi Chris out of action tonight, I will have the services of one Steve DeVries once he has finished wrangling these ragtag group of 25 drivers around a crazy little bullring like Mallala. Is going to be an absolutely crazy time. Once he's finished performing the driver's briefing for them, we'll get Steve in the booth and he can explain a bit more about where the origins of this series. In the meantime, though, just a bit about us on Endurance Chat, seeing as we've got the time. Of course, we are very, very close to the Le Mans 24 hours. So if you're watching, if you're not sure about what Endurance Chat is, it started out first as a podcast around endurance racing, endurance motorsport. Of course, with the Le Mans 24 hours, that's our main major event. And so we've been doing, we've got a podcast episode currently under editing in production to give you an introduction to that event. And then come the next week or so, we'll have entry lists podcast, so that way you know exactly what's coming along. And we have a visitor here in the booth with us, Lewis Wedding. Good evening, Lewis.
Good evening, Floody. How's it going, mate?
It is going very swell. I'm very excited for the start of a new season. Were you around for the first running of the Super Series, Lewis?
I was around. I didn't race the full series, and that outside of when it was sort of the mix of the Porsches and the Lancers, but everyone chose the Porsches because they were faster. But when it switched to the Lancers, both the RS and the Rs with the bigger engines, yeah, I did do a handful of races. So did do a little bit of it. The cars are slightly different since back then. We're just using the stock physics now. Yeah, it was good fun then, and as we can see here, big field. Hopefully, more fun for these guys tonight.
Yeah, we can see 26 cars in the server at the moment. Will you be racing out there tonight, Lewis?
I won't be out there tonight. I saw you in here nice and lonely, and I know Steve's doing the driver's briefing and stuff like that, so he's running a little bit late, but he'll be on in about 10-15 minutes time, so I thought I'd give you a hand because I've commentated on my own. It's not easy. So yeah, we've got good 12 RSs out there, and then we've got another 14 Rs, so a lot of cars out there on a very short racetrack.
It is going to be a very small racetrack, and even with the 40k races, 16 laps, it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of traffic coming into the mix. Lewis, if you were out there, what would you prefer to be in? Would you prefer to be in the faster class cars or the slower class cars? What do you reckon?
Well, you got to sort of look at the field as well. Like if you want to have maybe some slightly better results in your class, you might go and have a look and go, I might fancy my chances in the Lancer R's, but then at the same time you want to challenge yourself, or you just want to go that little bit faster, you'd probably just go and jump in the RS. But probably for me, I'm looking at the field. I'd like to even it out a little bit. I'd probably jump in an RS if I was out there at the moment. But qualifying's gone on away, and everybody's left the pits at the same time. So for you guys out there, I reckon you're going to have their laps bought here.
Oh, we're already straight into qualifying. Wow, it's no rest of the wicked at all. So we'll jump straight in and we'll have a quick look. And you can already see the massive amount of cars that have graced the circuit. It's going to be a absolutely wild session. A lap time around here, we were seeing, what, in the 120s about?
I wasn't able to catch what the lap times are. I only jumped in very late. But yeah, that sounds around about what they'd be doing. I'll just check live races and see what the drivers are able to muster.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very, very short lap, a very short period of time, and a very small amount of track to actually get your lap in. It's going to be about, each driver might have 100 meters to themselves. We're going to jump on board with Dane Liccardo and see what it's like from the driver's eye. So through turn 1 into this long turn 2. Here we are, that's the right view. And then down, what is the pit straight? So the pits at Mallala are around the corner from the front straight, and then into turn 3. Again, you really want to get the throttle on early as you can here because the corner opens out, but it does punish you for it, especially in these all-wheel drive cars. They've got the fast sweeper at turn 4, fully flat in these machines, easy flat in these machines. And then into the sharp hairpin at turn 5, breaking down to second gear, first gear even for Dane Liccardo rather, and very tight on exit. Track starts to open out a little bit more as we hit the second sector mark. Braking just past the 100 board for this final sector. And again, a nice tight right-hander, another hairpin. And this little chicane is a lot quicker than it looks. Hug the left-hand side, get a big sweeping run onto the right. And that is a lap of Mallala. So Colin Warwick sets the first lap at 1:14. Dane Liccardo goes into second at 1:15. So there's a lap of Mallala. And that's the... Nope. I gotta remember all these buttons again. There we are. And Dane immediately gets shoved out. Lewis, what were we looking at in live races? What were the best practice times?
Alright, so looking at the fastest RS was done by Hobson. That was a 1 minute 14.2. It was 2 seconds in front of both his teammates, and Scott Nolan and Luke Rosella by 2/10. The fastest land to R was Tim Redmond. He set a 17.9. So between the fastest R and the fastest RS, yeah, you got almost 4 seconds between them. But if you're an RS, particularly in qualifying, you not want to get stuck behind an R in that final sector there. It's going to cost you a bit of time.
Absolutely, and that's going to be a point of concern for a few of the drivers. We've got Brendan Hobson on screen now. He has the fastest time at the moment, a 14.4, but not by much. He's actually up to the second sector mark on his time to the tune of about 3/10, so we might even see a lap time hit the 13s for the first time tonight as he comes through the final corner using all the ripple strip on the outside. We'll catch Brendan Hobson over the line, and it's a 14.1, and he's only just managed to hold on against Luke Rosella, who set a 14.2. So that gap is 8/10, as Luke Rosella looks like he's about to jump back into the pits, and yes, he does. Let's go find our Class R. Is that what we're calling it? A Class R and a Class RS leader, and that is Steve Warwick, who set a 18.7 to currently lead the R class in 13th. So that's 4.5 seconds away from the head of the RS class. Lewis, what do you reckon? Is that about what you expected?
We did see Tim Redmond duck into the very high 17s, so that's actually not too bad of a lap compared to the rest of the Lancer R crew there. So that'll be a very competitive lap time in the R class. He'll probably want to find at least his fastest, Steve Warwick's fastest in practice was an 18.6. So he's round about where the pace was. If he can just find another couple tenths, he'll find himself a bit of a buffer, and he might be able to pretty much lock himself onto what would be the front row for the R class.
Now, how are the starts working for these series? Are they a standing start by class or a rolling start by class, or what's the go there?
I do believe they'll be standing start, but don't quote me on that. I'll have a look at the Discord. I've not actually had too much to do with how this series is put together, so
Hopefully,
Um,
when Nether gets in the box, we can quiz him a bit more intensely.
yeah, I'm sure that he'll definitely know what's going on. But I would imagine it would be a standing start.
Yeah.
It's not been noted anywhere if it was a rolling start. So it would be formation standing. So that's what it was in the original series as well, I believe. So no changes there.
And we've got an interesting note coming into our live chat. Tim Redmond self-selecting to start at the rear for tonight's first race. So he's not qualifying tonight. So that's an interesting call as we see Luke Joyner fly through the infield across turn 1. So he's going to ruin that lap for Luke. He's off in the weeds. And this is the issue. We've got Lachlan Burke on screen just behind the number 69 car, which must be Glenn Miles, coming out of turn 3, or turn 2 rather. No, it was turn 3. I was right the first time. So he's had his lap balked on the exit there. It looks like the RS cars don't really have too much extra power over the R classes, Lewis, as we've got a car off out in the weeds there as well. The number 444 class, a car of Brennan Ross, I think. Yes, that was.
Yeah, or is Brennan Ross. Yeah, did a little bit of just testing for the mod, just to make sure everything worked when Rossi was putting it together in the early versions, and having done just some time around Calder Park, which obviously has a massive, drag strip. It's only about 10 k's at an hour difference down the straights, so 10 to 12 k's, and that was a very very long straight at Calder, and you could say the back straight's a comparable straight, but even then, like 10 k's does sound like a lot, but when you are racing cars that are only going 210, 220 kilometers an hour, it's not that much of a difference. So it's all got to be, all the time it's got to be made up, really. It's got to be done through drivers being a little bit more committed. They've got some big wings on the RS, so they've got to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a pair of Synergy Sim Racing cars on at the moment. Well, we did. Now we've only got one. Dane Liccardo, he's down on his personal best as he comes through the final sector. And he's run a bit wide there as well. So we'll leave him be and see if we can find... This looks a little tasty. We've got Luke Joyner and then the Monster Energy car of Termo. And then the C7 car, I think that's Steve Bulger, just coming down the back straight. Burko, sorry. The other Steve. As they come into the tight hairpin. So it looks like Termo was on an outlap. It looks like they were both on an outlap, actually. So I don't know why they were getting so close to each other. Because we've got 2 minutes left in this qualifying session. Lewis, who have you got your eyes on at the moment?
I was sort of having a quick look through. It looks like most drivers at the moment not really improving all that much. Although, just seeing, I think Hobson just jump to the top or extend his lead at the top. So he's gone to 14-0 now and 2/10 clear of his teammates.
We just had Matt Cecil find the wall at the hairpin, so we'll just bring that up on replay. Looks like he just got out into the weeds and just went straight off. So I think that's Matt Cecil protesting his thoughts on the car. He was bluing a little earlier, saying that the front doesn't really tuck in at all, which is a function of the all-wheel drive machines. So a little to get used to if they've not been driving an all-wheel drive car before.
Yeah, you've really got to muscle the car into the corner, try and get it to rotate that way, a little bit off throttle, and then really you're steering the car with your foot, because as soon as you put your foot down, the car will understeer quite a bit. Similar to a front-wheel drive, more so than the rear-wheel drive car, even though it's four-wheel drive. So you've got to take into consideration how much throttle you're putting on the exit of corners and at the mid-corner. Some corners you can just gas it up, other corners you've got to just wait a little bit until you can make it on the exit of the corner without running off the side of the track.
Absolutely. And speaking of running off the side of the track, Luke Rosella has just gone off down the pit straight. He's actually elected to give up his final qualifying go, so he's not going to improve. Brendan Hobson's already crossed the lane. He's up on his PB though, and he is only 5 thousandths away from making it into the 13s. So we'll track this one as it goes. Lewis, see if you can find me the R-Class leader in Termo and let me know how he's going at the minute.
He has just started a lap, I believe. So he'll be one of the last drivers to have a time. Yeah, he's just started a lap. He's coming into turn 3 right now. and he's behind. I think that's Rhodey there in front of him.
So we're just going to watch the end of Hobson's lap. He's up to the second sector, comes across the line, and it's a 13 triple eight for Hobson. So he's really immediately stamped his authority on the qualifying tonight. So we pick up Turmo now, coming through turn 4 into turn 5. He's just behind Rhodey, which is going to be a little bit of an issue in terms of getting caught behind a slower driver, as he swings through turn 6 and onto the back straight.
And Rhodey's on a lap as well, so he's not exactly going to want to get out of it either. So,
oh, they make a bit of contact. Bit of argy, bit of bargy in the first qualifying session of a brand new series. That's what we love to see.
And these guys having a crack, and Turmo, bit of curb on the way in, a little bit of curb on the way out, and...
Oh, not as much as that in the background. Who was that?
That's Liccardo, I think. It's an ERT car. I don't know if Damon Woods or anything like that's in the server, but yeah, having a full go at the curb.
It was wild. Let's see. Can't see who it was. I don't. Damon Woods, it might have been an Evolution Racing Team car. Yeah, we'll just wind it back a little bit. Have a look at this. Smash that curb on the inside, and he was almost over. Wow.
That is a feature of these cars, because you can attack the curbs and the track and bumps so much. Sometimes, particularly at circuits where you've got high curbs, like here at Mallala, you can get on two wheels, and we probably will see a number of drivers actually roll over throughout the season, and we may even see one or two tonight as they really attack, particularly the final corners. We've seen with Damon Woods there on two wheels there.
Yeah, a bit of a wild moment there for Damon Woods, and that brings to the end of the first qualifying session of the Super Series. And much like it was in TCAC, it is Brendan Hobson ahead of the field. Not by much, though, not by much. Luke Rosella kept him very honest through that session to round out the front row, and then it'll be Colin Warwick, Scott Nolan, Damon Woods, and Brendan Ross is your top 6. In the R class, it will be Turmo, who had a 10th of a second over Steve Burko. Then Steve Warwick is your top 3 in that class, as we are just waiting for the session to officially tick over.
Yeah, so we'll be the drivers briefing, and just having a look at the times, particularly in both classes in that mid-range. It is very, very tight. I reckon we're going to see a bit of door banging. Hopefully it's not too aggressive, but I imagine we're going to see some really, a lot of side-by-side action with just looking at these times. I mean, you've got Turmo, Steve Burko, Steve Warwick, Brock Harvey, and Darren Kemp all very close together. A little bit of a gap to Bolger and Locke there. Then after that, again, you got Locke, Hall, Matt Cecil, and Rhodey all very, very close together in the R class. And then you go from outside of Hobson, who's a bit of an outlier. You got Rosella all the way down to, I think, Ross and Rasmussen. They're all very close together. So it's going to be pretty action-packed. And then, of course, you've got the second and third races that are going to be a little bit jumbled from this qualifying session as well. So we're going to see plenty of action tonight.
Yeah, just a reminder, the second race will be a full reverse grid by class. And then the final race this evening set from the race 2 results. So it's going to be, as you said, Lewis, a bit of a chaotic night ahead of us. And what a great way to bring in a new season. It's great to see so many entries and so many drivers on the grid. And I think that is going to cause chaos tonight, because I don't see how 25 cars can make it around a very short circuit in such short racing as well, in a fashion that won't end up in chaos, really. Especially not this group of drivers who have shown to be the arbiters of chaos in times past.
Well, yeah, you've not only got the cars that are all, they're easy to drive, they're easy to throw around a circuit, and then at the same time, when we were putting the calendar together, we wanted to have circuits that would suit the cars, as well as put up some really good racing. I mean, this circuit here at Mallala, I mean, you've got turn 1, if you get a good run out of the final corner, 1 and 2, you can go side by side and get a move done. You can pass at 3, you got the long run down at turn 5, and then again, off that little back straight there, you got another passing opportunity. So the first lap alone, I reckon we're going to see multiple overtakes. Hopefully, we don't see an accident in the hairpin, but racing being racing, and there being cars so close together, I'm sure there'll probably be a nudge or two down there. But yeah, it's going to be some very interesting racing out there, and all that matters is these guys put on a good show, and everyone comes back at the end of the night and just has just enjoyed their nights of racing, which I think with the way the series has set itself up to be, and from what we've seen from lap times, I reckon it's going to be fantastic.
It is going to be a pretty fun series, and I'm keen to see this group go at it. So just a look to the calendar. I'm going to see if I can very, very sneakily get this going properly. No, it's going to auto tab to that screen, so I'm not going to do that. So don't have the calendar up and ready to.
I've got it on my screen if you want me to go over it.
Hang on. I've got it here. What I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to see if I can change a source somewhere without putting it up on the screen, so I can put this. I was very, very prepared tonight, obviously. So we've got everything very, very. There we go. I think that's working. Please tell me that's working. That is the calendar up on the screen now. I think
my stream is just behind.
Okay, so it's gonna come up in a second, so just bear with us. But the calendar, as it stands tonight, is of course the first round of the series at Mallala. Then we go in 2 weeks' time to Wakefield Park. There we are, beautiful Wakefield Park, and then Lime Rock Park. I am really excited to see these cars around Lime Rock Park. Again, another little bit of a bull ring in that instance, and a really, really great circuit, one of my favorites. So that will be the 7th of September. 21st September, we go to Winton Motor Raceway. Let's not look forward to that. Now, these cars around Winton will be difficult to get your head around. A lot of very tight cornering at Winton, which is going to really make the front end of the car struggle quite a bit. Then Lakeside, love seeing racing at Lakeside. Oran Park Circuit, another classic of Australia's motoring history. And then Manfield, I'm interested in Manfield. I'll ask you about that if you've got anything to add to Manfield before we finish off on the 7th of December at the Old Long Beach Street Circuit, which will be a mess in the best way possible to finish off the season. Manfield Park, the Circuit Chris Amon. I'm expecting, because it's a Circuit Chris Amon, it's a New Zealand track. Do you have any extra light you could shed on that?
Yeah, so it is a circuit based in New Zealand. The Toyota Racing Series, Grand Prix Series over in New Zealand, they've run it for a few years, and we've got a fairly decent version that was done in R Factor that we've converted over. We used it at the end of Super 2 last year as a change up round for a different circuit, and everybody seemed to love it. Nice flowing circuit. That's going to be a difficult one because it's not the easiest place to pass, and it's going to be a bit understeery in these kinds of cars. But I reckon the drivers are going to enjoy driving it, and it's going to throw up some really interesting racing, particularly in the reverse grid races there, where people are going to have to be a little bit more patient, and they're also going to have to make sure they don't overuse the tires a little bit as well, because all the corners there you can carry speed into, and you're going to be heating them up. That's for sure.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see these guys put right to the very edge in every single chance that we can. I'm just going to have a quick look to see the damage. Oh, sorry, the tires and fuel multiplier. So they're running at 2 times, which is pretty standard across a lot of ASR series, truth be told. But will the tires become a significant issue in these shorter races? Do you think that taking too much of a chunk out of the tires early on is going to markedly affect your ability to battle later on in the race?
I don't think it will, but we may see a lot of the circuits as well. They're not really circuits that you're going to be tearing chunks out of the tires with anyway. Manfield may be slightly different. I wouldn't expect to see any tire failures, but you may see a little bit of wear and lap times fall off a little bit. But yeah, tires should be pretty good even at 2 times, so I wouldn't expect there to be major issues like we see in some of our other series where it's a bit of a dilemma sometimes whether to pit or not.
like the GT3 World Challenge, which has been going gangbusters throughout the season. That's the other series that I commentate on with Steve DeVries and Josh Bagsy Bags. Next round for that will be the 21st of August, which unfortunately I'll be missing out on because that's the day of Le Mans. So, bigger fish and all that sort of stuff. But I'll be sure to drop a line just to make sure that race goes all right. Are you planning on watching any of Le Mans this year, Lewis? Is that an event that comes up on your radar?
I'll watch some of it. I certainly, usually I'm up for the race start of it, and I'll watch the first hour or two, and then throughout the next day I'll watch bits and pieces of it. But I don't watch it as religiously as what you do. My I guess big 24-hour event's the GT event at Spa that's just been, which was an absolutely fantastic race that went right down to the wire.
Yeah, that was a pretty incredible race at Spa-Francorchamps. It remind me, it was the AF Corsa Ferrari and the WRT Audi that were the ones in the best position as the rain came pouring down with, what was it, 20 minutes left or something like that?
Yes, it wasn't AF Corsa, it was Lynx.
Iron Lynx, that's the one, yes.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. I got in an argument with Luke Rosella about that, and he was saying it was AF Corsa, and I was like, no, I've been watching the race all race long, and I've been saying Iron Lynx the whole way, and it's not painted red or blue, so... Yeah, it was a fantastic race. Particularly the last hour, really, really captivating, and to see a race for that long, come down to essentially the last lap, absolutely fantastic. It's just a shame, I guess early on we did see a number of the key runners sort of fall out of that, but hopefully tonight, again, all our races go down to that final corner and that final lap.
I think with a field of 25 and with short 40-kilometer races, that's almost a shoo-in. The guys are just doing some start practice at the moment, so we'll see if we can get some images of that on the screen. No, they've all buggered off, have they? Well, that's...
I got some drivers out there that are just cutting laps.
Yeah, so we'll just have a quick peek at that and have a look. It's going to be difficult to get your head around so many new liveries, but this one's going to be one that's going to be familiar to anyone who's watched Brent Foley in basically anything. The Red Bull livery on for the PBF racing team, with Mitsubishi written down the side to go along with, of course, the Mitsubishi. Any particular... Oh, as we watch the birthday boy run into the side of Lachlan Burke. Well done there, Rody. Any particular liveries that really stand out to you for this series? Some of them look gorgeous. Yeah,
some of them are pretty good. I do like the Hobson, Rosella, and Nolan liveries. They're quite a good style on them. All of them, distinct colours. They're not too bad. ERT aren't too bad. And then you've got, some really out there ones like the Steve Bolger one that, electricity all over it. Got Rody's one out there, which you go to the sides and it's nice and simple. Then you go to the front of it and it's just massive colour and 80s vibes.
They are called Team Retro for a reason. Let's see if we can get a shot of the Roadster. There it is. Look at that. What a mess. Love it.
But I think just the simplicity of Lockie Burke's Napa livery, I think that's one of my sort of favourites. All the colours work well. It's nice and simple. And it just works really well. That's another one that I'm quite fond of. I'm actually quite pleased. The entire group over the last couple of years, from where we started to where we are now, I mean, everybody is running liveries that all look really good or are unique. So it's not really any bad ones out there, to be fair.
Yeah, it's quite nice to see everyone putting in such a solid effort to make their own sort of piece of art. Really, that's what these liveries are in the end. They're like advertising and they're corporate and whatever, but they're also art, as we see that Brendan Foley rather, upside down at the last corner. Let's see what's happened here. You did say we might see someone flip their car. And what? There it goes. Right into the cameraman as well.
One thing I do, another one, liveries that I do like, the design of the C7 ones as well. So both Steve Burko and Darren Kemp. again, nice design on those, and then you got the black jaws where the colours they're pretty good as well. So yeah, again, just up and down the field, really good looking cars, and hopefully some really good racing as well.
So we will very shortly be underway for our first race of the evening. And it looks like we might not even get another Stephen DeVries in the
Will
booth.
be in. He's just having some kid trouble. I got a message before, so he will be in. He's just having a little bit of trouble at the moment.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, you're a fitting substitute, Lewis, and I'm happy to have you with us.
That's right. I know it's like doing it solo, and I don't wish that upon anyone.
It's all good. I'm glad to have you. So the field is just getting themselves all ready. I'm just trying to find the right camera to show it. There we are. And very soon we'll be underway for the first round, the first race of the first round of the 2021 Australasian SimRacing Super Series. It's such a bad habit, Lewis. I can't help it.
Yeah, there's times where I mix it up myself, so I wouldn't feel too bad. But actually quite lucky we've only got 26, because if we had a few more cars, there'd be guys that would probably, if we had over 30 car grid, we'd have guys lining up around the corner.
And just a little long to get underway was Brendan Hobson as we start the formation lap. He leads us off from the pole position. Luke Rosella starts in second place, the number 55 Synergy Sim Racing car. Colin Warwick in third for Warwick Racing Team RS. Then Scott Nolan, the third of the Synergy Sim Racing cars. Three in the top four for SSR, so that's a pretty good start for them. Damon Woods is out of fifth place. Then it is the D2R car of Brendan Ross. Damien Rasmussen is in seventh, starting as a wild card tonight. Brendan Foley will start out of eighth. The second of the ESR cars, Dane Liccardo, in ninth. Lachlan Burke, the first of the AAR races, is in 10th. That Napa auto livery that you were mentioning earlier. Luke Joyner is in the first of the MHRT cars in 11th. And Nathan Higginson rounds out the RS field in 12th place. Lewis.
All right, so we have Termo leading the way in the Lancer R class, just ahead of Steve Burko, C7 Motorsport. We have Steve Warwick there lining up behind him. I'll just go off position on screen because it is a bit confusing having the two classes and different numbers on screen. So Steve Warwick there, he'll be starting in 15th, or the second row for the R class. We have Brock Harvey making his return to the series. Good to see him out there in the Lancer R. He'll start from 16th place with Darren Kemp right behind him. Then we have Steve Bolger starting in 18th place for Gravel Race Racing with Lockie Lock right behind him. And Ben Hall looks like he's starting from the pits in 20th. He'll be waiting a little while there, but with the way the pits are, he might not lose too much time actually. Matt Cecil will start 21st, albeit he'll move ahead of Ben Hall. Then we have Rhodey in 22nd. Brian Walsh will be starting from 23rd for Wildcat / Playboy Racing. Glenn Miles, his good mate, alongside him in 24th. Justin Cecil 25th, with Tim Redmond, who elected not to set a time in qualifying. He'll be starting from the back with 26th position.
And that is the field just as they come up to the grid. Lights are on. We are ready to go.
One or two drivers there just out of position.
There we are. Now the revs are rising. And we're away. And it's a great start from Hobson. He managed to jump Rosella quite a lot. In fact, Warwick's going to get through and Rosella towards the first corner as they all come through the switchback at 1 and 2. Rosella's hemmed in on the inside, but Warwick's going to stream around the outside.
And he'll have the inside for the next corner as well. But very, very long run for these cars. But looks like that's Nolan having a look up the inside of his teammate as well for fourth there. As it was... Did see a little bit further back off the start. I did see, I think it was Termo ran up the back of one of the RSs in front of him. So he got a good start, but unfortunately got a little bit blocked off there.
Yeah, it was 3 wide in the mid-pack there as Termo's lost the R-Class lead now to, I think that's Steve Burko, as the field rushes through towards the hairpin. And argy-bargy at the hairpin, a bit of nose-to-tail action in the mid-pack with Brendan Ross and Dane Liccardo getting into it. as they come through to end the, well, almost get to the last section of the first lap of 16 tonight.
And we've also got a, looks like a move of Rasmussen just having a look at one of the ERT cars, as well as Higginson having a look at Luke Joyner. Also got Steve Burko making a move for the lead on Turmo in the R class as well down.
Oh, we just had Nathan Higginson up on 2 wheels, and he's been made contact with Luke Joyner, who's spun to the inside. So now Luke's going to be behind the whole R class field as they come through to the second lap. It was all because Higginson got up onto 2 wheels. So it's Burko now in 12th place, leading off the R class, and he's got Turmo and Brock Harvey for company.
And just a little bit further up the road, you've got Liccardo and Brendan Ross side by side at turn 3, and also got Rasmussen in the wildcard car, but of course he is part of Synergy Sim Racing. He's looking to make a move on Liccardo as well. So he's actually lost 2 spots off the start.
So they'll come through the sweeper at turn 3. Liccardo goes to cover at the hairpin. And actually, might almost have made a move there on Brendan Ross, but didn't quite get the drive out. So he's now a little vulnerable around the outside to Damien Rasmussen. Rasmussen does angle towards the inside for the last complex corners, but Liccardo shuts the door. So that's that battle closed for now. Looks like the RS class has already sort of spread itself out just a little bit, as that was Ross running a little wide around the final corner.
Yeah, now he's under attack from Liccardo. These guys battling has allowed Burke to sort of close up just a little bit, even after his sort of, I guess, average first lap. So these three battling pretty hard for 7th place. The cars in front of them remained fairly close, but not too much action. As I say that though, Damon Wood's having a look at the back of Scott Nolan at turn 3. So racing up and down the field in the RS class, and I'd imagine it'd be the same in the R class as well as in the background. I see that's Rody running a little bit wide there in the exit of turn 2.
So we've actually had a change to the lead in the R class while you've been talking there, Turmo. Not Turmo, Lewis. Turmo's gone to the lead of the class ahead of Steve Burko. And the top 3 have broken away a little bit in the R class. Here they are on screen now. It is Turmo from Burko from Harvey with, I think that's Darren Kemp and Steve Bolger behind. But there's a big angry pack headed up by Lachlan Locke at the tail end of the R class as well as they come through the hairpin.
Oh,
and a huge dive. Who was that?
That was Luke Joyner trying to recover in the RS, and he's just come in very, very deep, and he's locked up and straight into the side of, I think who that is.
That was Rody. So we're catching a replay now. We've gone on board the front. He's gone way too deep there. He's actually hit Team Redmond very late on in the corner. So a bit of a mistake there for Joyner. And he has dropped to the tail of the field. I think, in fact, he's stuck in the gravel there.
And just having a look up and down the field as well, Damon Woods has got by Scott Nolan. Scott Nolan coming under attack from Brent Foley now. Also seen Liccardo get ahead of Brendan Ross, and Rasmussen's actually following him through there. So Ross is down a couple more spots, and he's got Lockie Burke behind him as well. So a bit of changing already.
Blink and you miss it sort of stuff here so far in the Super Series. That was what we were promised and what we've been given as this group of 4 goes through the tight hairpin. So this is Liccardo, Rasmussen, Ross, and Lachlan Burke for the tail end of the top 10.
And I'm just trying to keep a bit of an eye on the R class while all this is going on. We've got a bit of a train forming up behind Kemp and Burko here. Thermo's just started to drive away from Brock Harvey. He's done a really good job in this on up 3 spots. But Burko, after a bit of a challenging start, is now trying to find his way forward while also trying to fend off Kemp, Bolger, and Warwick, who are all duking it out.
So we'll go and find that little battle. There we are. And those trio of blue and white cars look very nice, all sat next to each other as they come down the main straight. So this is for 3rd place in the R class, of course. So they come through turn 2 for the 5th time. Oh, a little wild there from, I think that's Steve Warwick.
Warwick, yep.
Yes. There's 3 Steves in 4 positions there in R class. And Darren Kemp's the odd one out.
I think we need a separate class, just the Steve class.
The Steve class, yeah.
But another thing that they're going to have to look out for at the back end of the race is Tim Redmond coming through the field. So he was pretty quick and pretty handy in practice. Didn't set a time in qualifying. He's not too far away either, but that's something to look out for. And also got
Ooh.
yellows down there. Lockie Burke off at the hairpin.
Let's have a look, see if we can find Lachlan Burke. There he is. He's coming on another blue and white car in that train there. So let's see what happened to Lachlan Burke if we can catch a replay. We catch him and he's already in the sand there, and it is very deep sand. So I don't think we're actually going to be able to figure out what happened. We're just going to scroll. And it looks like he just outbraked himself.
Yeah, he just outbroke himself, and as we've seen so far, gravel trap here is actually like gravel trap. You do get stuck.
So we're going to jump on board with Lachlan Burke now as he comes through the tail end of the the front end of the R field, wraps around the outside of, I think that's Steve Warwick. Yep. And then now catching Darren Kemp, and we'll be able to see the difference in classes in action here as Burke goes to the inside, gets a nice move done. Does he get it pulled up? Yes, he does. He has to drop it into first, though.
And that's something I think these drivers will find out the hard way. You can't downshift these cars too hard. The engines are fragile, and there's no downshift protection. It's something that we did see a lot in the previous series. It's very easy to blow an engine in these cars if you use the the downshifts and engine braking. So that's something to look out for, particularly the hairpin here.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially for the guys who have been used to, say, the GT3 machinery that does have that downshift protection. They'd be certainly more likely to stress that engine and maybe cut a few horsepower out of it, or blow it to pieces just by being a bit too aggressive.
It does make a nice explosion sound as well. It's a bit cartoony, the one in the Mitsubishi, when it does go, but it's I reckon we may see 1 or 2 this evening if people are a little bit too aggressive. But yeah, I've just gone a little bit further ahead just to have a look again at the RS class, and got Warwick and Rosella starting to duke it out, and Rosella just getting a little bit closer as Hobson just is able to just eke away little bit by little bit out in front.
Yeah, this battle now is a 1.5 seconds away from the lead of the race. Hobson has got just a little bit of room ahead of him, a little bit of room behind him as well to maneuver, as Rosella is terrorizing the rear of Warwick's RS. Of course, the Colin Warwick being the younger of the pair of Warwicks in this race. And that gap, while it might not look like much or might not sound like much, it's just a bit of an air gap now that's going to make it really hard to overcome for these guys in the lower positions, and is actually inviting Damon Woods to join this battle for second as well. I think Rosella will be ruining that poor start, because certainly he's got the pace to be challenging Hobson for the race lead and the race overall, but being stuck behind Colin Warwick at the minute is distancing him from the head of the race.
Yeah, certainly not helping. He's got a good chance on this lap if he can just stick by Warwick and get a good run out of the hairpin. But Warwick, we do know, a very experienced campaigner. He knows he's just got to get a good exit out of this hairpin. You can see Rosella just taking that wider line and set up the better exit as Warwick spins up the wheels.
That was Damon Woods just behind as well, who ran a little deep. So that's taking back all the gap that he made up, or rather all the gap that he ate up to get to the tail of Rosella. So this is going to be an intriguing battle as we're entering the second half of this first race of the evening. We'll check in once again on our R class, and that's our R class leader Termo being passed for position overall, but not for position in class. That is the recovering Lachlan Burke, who's just gone through. Termo is enjoying about Burke's off again. Oh no, it's actually dragged Termo off with him. He went out into the grass just a little bit there, and in fact Brock Harvey's been able to manage Steve Burko as well and get past him and distance himself as well from third place. So the top 3 in the R class enjoying a little bit of space to themselves at the minute.
If you go a little bit further back, we've got a big battle for what is 15th place overall. We've got Redmond has caught up to the back of these guys. He's just making a move on Steve Warwick now, and he has a nice clean run. He's able to get by Darren Kemp, who we all know is a very difficult man to pass. If he's able to get by him quickly, he may just be able to contend with, Brock Harvey and Steve Burko in
Whoa.
front with about 7 laps to go here.
Very, very large in the rearview mirror was Steve Warwick for Tim Redmond through turn 2, but they managed to sneak out the other side as we're on board with Tim. He's now behind Darren Kemp for... Oh, he's been tagged and he's been spun! Oh, no! He's been absolutely trapped up there by, I think, by Steve. Oh, they managed to squeeze through. Is that 3 cars that managed to squeeze through in that instance there?
Yeah, it was 4 wide on the exit of that corner. You had Luke Joyner, who has pitted in the RS class, trying to work his way through. Lockie Lock trying to pick his way through the carnage as well. No major damage on those cars, but that ruins any chance of a podium in class for Redmond as he sends it up the inside of Justin Cecil there at the hairpin, but he's not going to get the run out. So they're going to go side by side all the way up until the next braking zone, where I would imagine that Redmond, who now has got a slight overlap, should get that position back.
Yeah, we're watching from the best seat in the house, Steve Warwick's helmet cam, as they come through the triplet chicane, or the triplet corner at the end of the lap. We just caught a replay. You could see Steve just absolutely missed his braking point by a mile, which is why the contact was made. But in the end, it will be, that's the buttons I want. Tim Redmond, who gets back ahead of this group. Bit of a shame for Tim. We were just talking him up and talking his chances up, but he's dropped down now to 18th place, which is still 8 places further up from where he started, but he could have been on for a much better result. He's going to go around the outside, it looks like, of Lachlan Lock down at turn 2. Maybe not this time. But the undercut is definitely on, and he will sneak it through anyway.
Yeah. And I've just had a quick squeeze at what is going on at the moment in the RS class. Had Rosella, he had a poor lap that last lap, and he's dropped off the back of Colin Warwick, and he's actually got Damon Woods right behind him. Still fairly close to Warwick, but Woods a lot bigger in his mirrors than what Warwick has, or what Rosella is to Warwick's mirrors in front.
Yeah, we're just catching that on screen now, and you're right. It seems that Warwick's just been able to eke out a little bit of a gap from Rosella, but what this has meant is that Brendan Hobson's eked out an even bigger gap over this group. So Hobbo doing what he does best, just getting into some clean air and just pounding the laps away, while these guys squabble over the minors. And it looks like, by the way, we're seeing our first little bit of traffic as Hobson passes what I believe is Glenn Miles for the tail end of the field. So this is going to complicate things for this group, especially through these tighter sections like here. As we just have a look as the field comes through the final corner.
May just catch him at the right point here instead of doing it in the twisty bits. Yeah, they've caught him at the right spot, so that's ideal. Although Glenn not really slowing down on the straight. It's actually going to make it very awkward for Damon Woods there. I don't know why I just didn't lift out of it earlier, but they're all able to get through there A-OK. Nolan would have made up a little bit of time on Woods in front. Also been seeing that all race long, Liccardo and Rasmussen have been duking out all race long.
Unfortunately, we've just seen a drive-through penalty come through for Nathan Higginson. She's taking straight away. That's probably a drive-through for track limit violations. Surprised to see a track limit violation in such a short race, but if there's one thing that Higginson knows how to do, it's slide his way through corners, so maybe he's just got overcooked it one too many times.
I think going by his exit out of the final corner, I think it's the only place I could imagine to be picking one up. So I reckon he's been taking the rallycross line and keeping on the grey stuff. But he's ahead of Lockie Burke still, so he hasn't lost all that much time. Thankfully for him as well, it's a pit lane where you don't lose too much time, at least compared to some other circuits out there.
Yeah, you basically cut off the entirety of turn 2 with that pit lane. So not the ideal for Higginson, but certainly not the worst place to pick up a drive through.
Oh, we've had contact between, I think that's Ben Hall and Colin Warwick there, and Warwick has lost out into turn 1 and 2. So disaster and a change of position there. So Warwick was wide off the final corner, and then coming into turn 1 and 2 was just caught out by Ben Hall, made contact with the back of him, and Luke Rosella, Damon Woods, thank you very much.
And it's big spin for Ben Hall, who's ended up in the weeds on the exit of turn 2. Warwick might even lose another position here to Scott Nolan's. They come through the back straight. Turn 4, Nolan's on the inside, Warwick's on the outside. It's going to be a race of the best breakers here as they dive into turn 5. Nolan's still got the inside line and does just manage to check Warwick up to nicely take that 5th position, as the field just ahead of them now start to process through Rhodey. And not Hobson's in a very difficult position here, because he's got, I think it's Steve Warwick now.
Yep.
To
so
navigate.
the leaders now, that's a lot of traffic for these guys to manage, and they're all catching at the wrong spot here. So Rosella's going to have to go through all this traffic as well, but he may just catch it at the right point if he's lucky.
These guys stream through turn 1 and 2. Rosella, Damon Woods actually right on the tail of Rosella. He actually just made a little mistake as I say that, and drops a little bit off. But this is going to complicate things immeasurably with traffic. Look at the gaggle behind. Warwick, Nolan, and Brennan Foley rather, coming through to pass Rhodey into turn 2. And Warwick's gone a little wide and has opened up the door for Foley. And he's going to take the same route that Nolan did the previous lap. Does he, as they come through turn 4?
Warwick has the slipstream, so he's been able to just eke ahead of Foley, but Foley is going to try and claim that inside and get the move done.
And it's going to be tight. Very deep under brakes for Foley, but makes it work.
Yeah, able to get the move done. And because that hairpin is so tight, you can't really get a switchback on. So you do get that inside and you don't bowl it off the road, you're generally going to actually get the move done and dusted, which Foley's able to do. But now he's got to navigate traffic just like Scott Nolan does. A lot of cars, and the thing is as well, they're all battling for position in that other class. So they don't exactly want to make it easy for the cars behind to get by, because it may let the guy they're actually battling get by as well.
I heard a bit of contact through the track effects mics, and I think that was Luke Rosella giving someone the hurry up. I'm not sure who that is just yet. Might be Lachlan Locke down the back straight, but we'll have a quick look at the replay, see what happened there for Rosella. Not quite. It must have been someone else. So
he did give him a nudge on the exit of turn 2, I saw. He's trying to obviously keep ahead of Damon Woods and try and make up time on Hobson, but Hobson's actually made up time throughout this whole traffic saga, as Rosella now looking to get by Bolger, and Bolger sort of gets out of the way and leaves him a bit of room, but Rosella being so early on the brakes, he's actually lost time to Woods behind. So that battle is going to go right down to the wire.
It is the ebb and flow of traffic as Hobson is about to start his last lap, but we'll quickly check in with our R-Class leader, which is Termo. He's enjoyed quite a quiet race, with Luke Joyner just making his way through in a moment. He's got the other MHRT car in Brock Harvey as his direct challenger, does Termo. But he's a few car lengths behind.
He might be mixing the two up here, because he's battling Joyner, who's on a different lap for position. And of course, Matt Harvey, he is racing for position and for the class lead. He's actually losing time by sort of battling with Joyner there.
So interesting one for Termo, but he's I think he's realised now that that's the RS machine, as we'll pick up our race leader, see if we can, because he's on his final lap now. He's just at the hairpin, and it's been a classic Hobson performance, you must say, in race 1. Oh, as we're going to cut off the background, that was Damon Woods. Third place, yep, Damon Woods. He's dropping down the order. 5th of place now. 6th. He's stuck. He's absolutely rooted that.
I don't know. It's going to take him a long time to get out of that. I don't know if he's going to finish last of those guys on the lead lap here, because it's going to take him a long time to get out of that.
And Damon Woods' loss is a few other drivers' gain, but it's immaterial to Brendan Hobson, who takes race 1.
He's picked up where he left off last time, and it's a Synergy SimRacing 1-2, something we're used to in TCAC. And Nolan makes it 1-2-3 after Colin Warwick had a bit of issues, and Foley coming home in 4th, with Liccardo home in 5th, and we've got Rasmussen struggling around the track at the moment, and his car looks like it's got a puncture or some damage, because the front end looks very, very low on that thing. Yeah, he's got a front left puncture.
Oh, wow.
And Higginson, I don't think it's close enough to get him on the line here, but Rasmussen will hold on just for P6, and Higginson's going to get there. And who's that's parked on the line there?
That's one of the R-Class cars.
It's Justin Cecil.
I wonder if he's run out of fuel. Surely
Wo-
not.
Woods is still parked in a gravel trap down there.
Well, he's DNF'd. He's gone straight back to the pits.
Yeah, he's out of fuel. Cecil is out of fuel or he's blown the engine or something. There's no noise coming from that car and it's switched off.
Wow.
He is literally 2 grid spots away from the start finish line. So it's about 10 meters,
And
10,
we've
12, 15 meters.
and we've got our race. Our R-Class winner comes across the line. Turmo. He finishes ninth overall, ahead of Brock Harvey. Lachlan Burke pushes Cecil across the line, ahead of Brendan Ross. So I'm not sure what happened to Rossi late in the race there, but he finishes in 12th. Then it's Steve Burko in 13th. Damon Woods, he DNF to 14th, ahead of Tim Redman, who will come across the line to finish 15th, ahead of Darren Kemp. These guys all a lap down, I think. And Lockie, Steve Bolger, Lockie Lock, Steve Warwick, Matt Cecil, Gagler cars all coming across. Rhodey and Ben Hall drag racing across the line at the end. Well, I think this is a lap after they finished, actually. Glenn Miles, Brian Walsh, and Luke Joyner. And as you mentioned, Justin Cecil running out of fuel on the line, unable to finish the race. Well, there we go. That's the first race of the Super Series for round one. And it was an action-packed race from start to finish, Lewis.
Yeah, it's spot fires everywhere in both classes. So maybe outside of Turmo for the most part having a comfortable run, and I guess Hobson had a fairly comfortable run after the start. Behind them, it was just action-packed all race. You know, you had Warwick trying to fend off Rosella, and then Rosella trying to fend off Woods. You had Liccardo, Rasmussen battling all race long. And then you had, Burko trying to work his way back up again. You had Redmond trying to get his way on the podium. Just great racing up and down the field. Some mistakes down there at the hairpin that I'm sure guys will not want to look back on. And they particularly won't want to outbrake themselves, particularly with the way that gravel trap is down there, where if you get in it,
you're not coming out.
You're not coming out. Or if you do, you've got the right numbers with your lotto ticket, that's for sure.
As we saw with Damon Woods. Nether, what did you make of that race?
Well, I only caught the last little bit of it and a little bit of the first bit of it, but I think the thing you've got to take out of this is traffic started to become a factor very, very late in the race. So if you hadn't have got your passing moves done in the R-Class by the time you started getting lapped, the R-Class field started getting split apart. So very early in the race, there was, truly trains all over the place. And then when the faster cars arrived on the scene, all those trains evaporated.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how the R-Class managed the RS classes making their way through. Of course, it always is a bit scary and a bit variable when you've got these passing battles in that instance. But most of them did a good job. There was that moment between Colin Warwick and Ben Hall at turn 2, which was a bit sketch, and that might get looked at by the stewards in a post-race review. But it's going to get even more frantic next race with the reversed grid in class. So we'll see how that works out for the second race of the evening. It's good to have you with us, Nether.
Thank you. Yes, there's a bit of a late arrival, a few little dramas, getting a few things dealt with here at home on this fine Tuesday evening, and a late fill-in for Kiwi Chris Riddell, who's got a couple of other things on, and actually big thanks to Lewis for jumping in at short notice to cover for myself, having to get a few things organised. But it's good to be part of the series. I was actually part of the last ones of these series. It was Stairs, who was back in the day in 2018 and was the broadcaster for most of was Automobilista Australia back then. And all those streams are still available. And I went and had a look at some of them during last week and looked at all the results. And there's been a big change in the guard. There's a couple of drivers that have come back and are still participating in the series that they were a part of 3 years ago. Of all times, it was quite a while ago. And so many big new names as well. So you look at people like Brock Harvey, who was actually in the RS class back in 2018, and he's now gone the opposite direction. He's gone to the lesser power category this year, and it actually had a good start to proceedings for him. So it's a little bit of a different feel compared to 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of shows the growth of ASR and the sort of new faces that have come along and been very competitive. Who has made the jump from 3 years ago? Who's still around?
Well, let's have a look. So back in the RS class, it was back in the day, you had Brenton Hobson was your defending winner. So he won the series over Shane Chancellor by 24 points. He actually had that series wrapped up after the second last round. So he didn't even contest the last round at Bathurst. So he's still here. Brenton Foley was in the RSs as well. He was actually in Pro B back then in the day. So he's in the RS class again. Dwayne Davies, who's not here tonight, he's in RS as well. And they're the only, and Cracker as well, who's not here tonight, is in RS2. So he's a couple have crossed over. Brock Harvey, who was in RS last time out in the, I think it was the extra butter, the yellow and white machine with Short Shift Podcast on the side. He was in RS class last time, and he's dropped down into the lesser class, the R class this time out. Brendan Ross was the winner in R class last time out. He's made the jump to RS this time around. Luke Joyner was second in the R class last time out. He's made the jump to RS. Scott Nolan was fourth in Rs. He's made the jump to RS. And Brian Walsh, Glenn Miles, Mike Coulston, who's not here, they have all decided to put their faith in the lesser power machinery again. So there's only about 7 or 8 gentlemen from the 25 or 26 drivers that contested it last time out that have actually come back for another bite at the cherry.
Well, it's funny that those names are the ones that seem to be at the head of those classes, so they've got some prior experience. Indeed. Lewis, anything you'd like to say before the start of the second race? It looks like they're just getting the grid all sorted out before we start getting ready for the next race.
I think this is where we're probably going to see the biggest bit of biff and barge. I think race 2 here. Drivers out of position. I'm sure guys that were pretty close on pace in the first race will probably find themselves again here in the second. But then you've got to throw into the fact that you've got, the fast guys from race 1 started from the back, at least in their class. They've got to wait, get their way through those battle packs. And then if they're still battling, they've got to work their way through lap traffic or, they're going to be lapped. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely right, and let's not forget guys like Tim Redmond, who ended mid-pack in the first race in their class. They're going to be looking very, very nice for a good run to the head of their respective class. And it's also a chance for the likes of, say, Lachlan Burke or Luke Joyner, who had big problems, or Damon Woods, for example, who had big problems in that race, to get a bit of redemption.
Yeah, this is where we've seen in other series where we've ran similar sort of grid kind of concepts that usually it's not the fastest guys that sort of win these races. They do win them a lot of the time, but it's also those guys that are fairly handy, normally 4th or 5th fastest out of a group of, say, 15. They have that better starting position for that, second or third sort of reverse grid race. And then they find themselves in that position or in a position in these races where they're ahead of the faster guys who then get stuck behind guys that are battling. Those, guys that were race 1, 4th, 5th, 6th, they're able to get themselves into the lead fairly early and build a lead. And that's where you see the different winners come about. I know Cracker, he was a bit of a pro at it in the old TCC and TCR days. And we've seen a number of guys in Super 2 and the like also be able to not maybe win or, qualify on pole most of the time, but when they get given a chance, they're able to put through a nice clean race and give them a great opportunity for a win or even a podium.
And it's a great way for people maybe new to the series or new to ASR or just new to sim racing in general to have a chance at running up the front and sort of being in that position and the sort of problems that come with that. Nether, what are your thoughts on the reverse grid format? How do you reckon that's going to go?
I reckon it's going to be an interesting format because it's not something that we've actually done before. Usually, we've gone along the lines of the progressive grid, or we've gone along the lines of a second qualifying session, but this is a little bit different with the class split. There's actually going to be a split grid as well, so it will be a rather interesting new sort of thing that we're going to have to get used to, I guess.
And what do you reckon the drama points are going to be for race 2? Where do you reckon all the action's going to be happening? I've got my eyes trained in one position. I want to see if you guys agree.
I'll let Lewis go first with that one.
Lewis? No takers. Defers back to you, Nether.
Defers back to me. I think the pinch point is the patience element. I think a big patient element, especially a track like this. You've already seen that there's been some dramas with people being in the wrong spot at the wrong time tonight. So I think the faster guys having the patience is what's going to be a big issue for this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see the field on the first 2 laps at turn 5. I reckon that tight hairpin that we've got up on screen now, that's going to be where all the action's going to happen, and we might see another driver or 2 off in the weeds. Well, we were planning on going racing straight away, but there seems to be a little bit of problem with the setting of the grid, so we're just waiting on that to be rectified.
Yeah, that's unfortunately my fault with that one. There's a little bit of a technical hitch that we're not used to seeing. Usually running the files is pretty straightforward, and for some reason it doesn't want to execute tonight. So we're just having to try a couple of different things to get this one to go.
Okay, while Nether sorts that out, we'll just remind you once again of the calendar, if I bring it up properly. There it is. So, of course, the first round tonight at Mallala. Next up, in 2 weeks' time, will be Wakefield. And then I think it's pretty consistently fortnightly, except for the big break in October. And that is, of course, to allow for the... the Supercars Endurance Cup, I believe. That sounds right off the top of my head. So I'm sure we'll have a screen for that at some point through the season. If you're a driver looking to get involved for the Endurance Cup, I think we're doing 3 rounds actually of the Endurance Cup. So we've got Bathurst, Sandown, and Gold Coast. So that will be 3 events, mid-September, early October, and then late October. So around the sort of gap in the series for the Super Series. If you're a driver who wants to get involved in that and looking for a partner, just jump into the Australasian SimRacing Discord. And you can get to that through the Australasian SimRacing Facebook page. Give us your details. Get involved, do a few races in like Super 2 to make sure you're up to stuff, and we'd love to see you out. The Bathurst 500 that we did together last year, guys, went really well. Apart from one very extended technical issue, Lewis. We'll try not to remind you of that too much, but I still think your exasperated sigh after spending, I think it was a good hour fixing that one issue, perfectly typifies the appropriate reaction to something along those lines. But now we're expanding to a full Enduro Cup, so hope nothing like that goes wrong again, right?
I'd imagine it'll run a bit smoother. I reckon this time by. I do apologise actually for being a bit silent before. I was actually trying to get a drink. So I was down the other end of the house. I had the headphones, I could hear it, but I couldn't say anything. So do apologise for that. But no, I reckon this year the Enduro Cup's going to be fantastic series. It's not just an event this time. We've got 3 events. All 3 circuits vastly different to each other. You got drivers out for a bit of redemption after a bit of bad luck last year in the 500. New teams that have come in, new drivers that have come in that are looking strong. It's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait, whether I'm driving or even just helping run the series. I reckon it's going to be fantastic. And, not only have we got, our current sponsors and backers this year and last year on board, we've even, picked up some new ones with Ryko and Penrite, as well as, Smith and Sons that have put in some good money with Scott Nolan and CRE and all those guys. So it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait.
It certainly promises to be intriguing, and that will be on the Outworld Broadcasting Network. So I was looking for a word that wasn't coming to me, but it's the realm of the Netherrealmian. Does that make it the Nether? Is that how that works?
I'm not sure what you're going on with there. I think you just completely mucked it up.
Yeah, that's what I do best. No, that's Nether's streaming broadcasting channel, so he'll be the one in charge of all of that action. So make sure you subscribe to Outworld Broadcasting as well to not miss a moment of ASR, the Enduro Cup, and of course Supercars and GT3 World Challenge and all the other fantastic racing that happens at Australasia Sim Racing. I get it wrong every single time.
We're going to have to imprint it into your forehead so you look at it in the mirror every time before you go to bed at night so you get it right.
Oh, no, I don't like that.
No, we don't go that way. That's actually an interesting topic. There was something about imprinting things in people's foreheads. I was actually watching one of those, a YouTube video today of, it was a music video from the Fear Factory, and they're talking about like was writing something on people's foreheads, like almost like recoding people's minds or something. It actually part of one of their new albums that got released, Aggression Continuum, fairly recently. It's actually a very interesting type of a video. But anyway, that's where I got the whole imprinting things in people's minds from. So it's like, yeah, maybe that's what we need for you.
Oh, yeah, probably, actually. It's because I see the A first, and then my brain just goes like, oh, it's Automobilista. Right, that's exactly right. No, it's not.
No, it's all changed now. So we've actually gone full manual set with the grid now. We were actually hoping that we were going to have a bit of a class split with this one and have a grid spot vacant. But for some reason, the automatic way of doing things hasn't sort of wanted to play ball. So what we've done is gone with a manual setting of the grid. Unfortunately, it means that there isn't going to be any separation between the classes for this one. So they will have a little bit of... I have to be very careful going through these opening couple of corners. Let's just put it that way.
It looks like they've actually split into classes quite nicely, at least on the screen that I'm seeing. But
they are split into classes. What we were hoping to do was put a vacant row between the classes, so there was a little bit of separation going into some of the corners. So that's unfortunately out the window for this one. What was very important to take out of that last round was two things. One, the non-finish for Damon Woods actually puts him at the back of class. And then the second thing is that Luke Joyner and Justin Cecil, who were the last men to cross the line in the respective categories, actually are on the pole for their respective, or up the front end for their respective classes.
And remember, they pushed each other over the line at the very end because Cecil was out of fuel. So he might have even, had it not been for Luke Joyner's very... what's the word I'm looking for? Charitable
Donation. Lachlan Burke's very charitable donation.
Yeah, so we are underway for the warm-up lap, and we'll be able to see the grid in full glory. Nether, take us away.
All right, Luke Joyner off of pole position. He was a lap down in the RS class, so he's going to look to make amends and put some points on the board. Brendan Ross alongside him in P2. Lachlan Burke, who was the man who gave the very charitable push to Justin Cecil at the end of that first race to get him across the line in P3, with the recovering Colin Warwick, who was in the thick of it early and had a little bit of a drop-off toward the end of race 1. Nathan Higginson, with his drive-through penalty, finds himself in P5, with Damien Rasmussen with him. Dane Liccardo in position 7. He had a fairly solid run. Brenton Foley, another one of the men who's returned from 3 years ago. Then we get back to the Synergy Sim Racing trio of Scott Nolan, Luke Rosella, and Race 1 winner Brenton Hobson, who shares the back row of the RS class grid with the only non-finisher from that race in Damon Woods. He's going to have it all to do. Front row in R class belongs to Justin Cecil. As we said, very important to be pushed across the line. He finds himself on pole in class. Alongside him, Brian Walsh, would you believe it or not? That's a very, very nice position for Walshy, and very important to show that you just need to keep going sometimes when the chips are down, and you just might end up with a good position in race 2. Glenn Miles, the same philosophy applies to him. He's out of P3. Ben Hall, despite the early contacts, in P4 in the RS class in the R class for them, 16th overall. Rhodey, 5th in class for this one, alongside Matt Cecil. Back to Steve Warwick, who got a bit of a shove on there a little bit earlier on in the piece with a couple of drivers in the RS classes. Lockie Lock alongside him, P20 overall. Then we've got Steve Bolger, Darren Kemp, Steve Burko, and Tim Redmond, and the two that finished on the top two steps of the rostrum in race 1, Brock Harvey, who was P2 in race 1, and Termo, who was P1 in race 1 in class, off the back.
And just in time for the grid to be formed up and set, we have 25 cars and another 16 laps of action. Red lights are on. And we're away. It's a false start from Darren Kemp, but that's immaterial to the battle at the front because it's Lachlan Burke who goes straight to the front from row 2. Driven straight through the middle, and he's going to take the lead as they go through the second corner.
What a jump from Lachlan Burke. Timed the launch perfectly. It was a very long hold. The lights seemed to hold for quite a while, and he just timed it and let the clutch out beautifully. And there's a clean set of heels now down into turn 3. Colin Warwick now tucking in behind Brendan Ross. Luke Joyner going backwards at the start here.
Oh, there's chaos. There's chaos at the back of the R-field. Tim Redmond's been absolutely nailed alongside Lachlan Locke, and they've been pushed to the back of the field. What happened there to Tim?
He was caught on the outside for turn 3, and I think he's actually, there's been a hit. So Lachlan Locke looks like he's been whacked by, who's that? It was by Darren Kemp.
Yeah.
And I think there might be a barbecue. I thought there might be a barbecue going on somewhere from it. I heard some fire. I'm not sure if there's a car that's blown an engine somewhere, but Darren Kemp, not only has he got the drive-through penalty for the jump start, he's had a little bit of a dirty night in the last couple of rounds as well. He hasn't had the best of nights in Super 2 recently for the last couple of rounds, and this just compounds matters, I think, for him.
Yeah, not a great start to the second race for him, but have a look at the battle packs. They go through the last corner in RS class rather. It's an absolute traffic jam through the final section of the racetrack, and then it's again the same sort of thing in R class, except for one man who's out the front, Justin Cecil. He's streamed away. They're going 3 wide down the main straight, are they, in R class? That's not going to work into turn 1.
Oh, that's tight, and
it's turned into a
That's a massive smash.
That's a big incident between Miles and Termo. They're all over the place. I was right. There was a barbecue that happened. It was Lockie Locke that's out of this one with a blown engine. Lewis did say we were going to see it at some point tonight. But this went on and on and on. Walsh was in there, and Miles and a whole bunch of others were panel banging for a good 4 or 5 corners leading up to the incident.
Yeah, let's see if we can actually scroll back far enough to have a look at how this all started, because even Steve Burko was sitting off the side of the road sideways for a little while. And, just have a look at the air time that Termo got. Miles swung back across the track, and then Harvey had nowhere to go, neither did Termo, and just bang, straight into the air.
That's a major, major catastrophe, that one. And have a look at this up in the RS classes. It's all going on. There's a big train here behind Rasmussen and Foley. It's a major, major pack, and it's allowing the top 3 to get away here. Colin Warwick's gone to the lead now, ahead of Lachlan Burke and Brendan Ross, and they've got about 2 seconds, or better part of 2 seconds on Rasmussen, and then Foley, and this train starting to settle down. Hobson's having to fight really, really hard here as everyone's still rounding up Luke Joyner.
It's an absolute madhouse here. The whole field, it looks like it's condensed into less than, 3-4 seconds, as it's Nolan having a big dive down the inside of Liccardo, making significant contact there was Nolan. Not sure that was all kosher, as his teammate tries to drag through on the inside of Liccardo as well, but we've seen that Liccardo doesn't really like being bullied. He'll bite back twice as hard, and it's very much, very, very tight as they come through to the hairpin. Very deep under brakes for Nolan. Look at that, and he's going to string through past both of them.
Might have been a little bit of teamwork there as well. I think Nolan tried to hold Liccardo just a little bit there to allow Hobson to get the double toe and get down the inside there, and it's sort of half worked out because Hobson's got past the pair of them, but then Nolan dropped the spot in the process.
This is the point of the race now where the front 3 in both the classes. So there's a bit of a break in the R class. There's also a bit of a break in the RS class. This is where Colin, we did see him have decent pace in the first race. This is where he's got to set up his race. And this is where Lockie Burke and Brendan Ross can set up their races. They've got a bit of a gap to Rasmussen behind, who in the first race, I think those 3 were also a little bit quicker than Rasmussen and Foley. But the fast guy in that RS class, Hobson, he's got to get by him. So with 12 laps, he's got to get by those 2 in Rasmussen and Foley, and then make up further time, currently being about 5.5 seconds off the lead. And in the R class, you've got both the Cecils first and second, Justin ahead of Matt. And Justin can really set up his race here if he just keeps it nice and clean, He's got Matt Cecil behind him. We did see Brock Harvey being the fastest of those those drivers in the top 3 in race number 1 by a considerable margin. But he's got to get by Cecil, Matt Cecil that is. But there's also a bit of a gap between Matt and Justin as well. So all these guys can set up their races and indeed their championships as well if they can just keep it nice and clean, with Tim Redmond probably the fastest driver in that class. Had a poor start to the championship and to the first and second races, but he's 4th at the moment, but he's got a lot of time to make up.
And he's just snuck through the battle, which includes Rhodey and Steve Warwick and Brennan. Oh, no, not Brendan Hobson. That's not the number I was expecting to see. That is the new fastest lap, though, for Brendan Hobson. He's really putting the hammer down now that he's got a bit of space ahead of him. It's Steve Bolger behind Rhodey. So a pair of Steves that are stuck behind Rhodey for, I think that's 5th in the R class. Which Redmond's managed to get through, and he's on his way now to try and chase down Matt Cecil, who's already been passed by Brock Harvey. But Harvey has been the one of that group of the R-class pace setters from race 1 who's made it through most unscathed from that early lap melee to really fight for the race lead. And look at the gaps that these guys have, just by the way. Justin Cecil's got about a second over Brock Harvey, who has already 2 seconds over Matt Cecil, who's rapidly been closed in by Tim Redmond. But then even behind them, Redmond's got a few seconds over Rhodey. And behind Steve Bolger, it's 10 seconds to Darren Kemp. And Termo, who's the real big loser from that first race. We would have expected him to have really processed through the field, but he's been absolutely hamstrung by the goings-on turn 2 on lap 2.
Yeah, these two guys, Kemp and Termo, were involved in various incidents. Obviously, Kemp with the jump start, having to tour the lane, plus the incident at turn number 3, and then Termo caught up in the big melee as well. So these guys are 10 seconds behind because they're having to catch up from those incidents that they've been a part of. Lewis is right. The cars at the heads of the field sort of need to check out as quickly as he can, and that's what Colin Warwick's done. He's put 2.2 seconds on Lockie Burke, so he's making a real beeline for position 1 and doing everything he can to consolidate that right now, as he just has a little bit of a lock-up going down into the hairpin. And then here come the chasing pack. So Hobson's now slowly processing everybody. He's processed Liccardo, he's processed Foley. He's now in the process of processing past Rasmussen. That's a lot of processes. And then he will be
Is that a quad core or is that an octo core?
I don't know what it is, but it'll be something. And he's now up into position number 4, and now he can set his sights on the top 3.
So we're just going to jump on board here with Brendan Foley, who has the best seat in the house at the moment as they come through the final corner. Rasmussen on his outside, a bit of touch there for Foley, but he's managed to sneak his way through, has he, just into 5th place. Has the narrow line through turn 1. Is there enough room on the outside? There isn't for Rasmussen. And they're still side by side. Foley now out into the grass. We'll look at Dane Liccardo, who looks at the rear of both of these cars into turn 2, just to show how close it is. And it looks like Foley's finally going to have enough room to make that position. Oops, that's the one I want. And that's actually just allowed the Hobson and the next group of cars to check out. But have a look at this. It's battle pack in 6 here. It's Foley, Rasmussen, Liccardo, Nolan, and Woods. And Luke Rosella, who's gone nowhere since the start of the race, all in very close proximity.
While this has been going on, we've actually had a change for the lead in the R class. So Brock Harvey has closed down on Justin Cecil and got by, and also in the last half a lap, also Tim Redmond's actually got by Matt Cecil as well. So I reckon we're going to see this race in the R class probably come down to Redmond and Brock Harvey if the lap times are anything to go by, but we may also see a battle between both the Cecils as well.
I was just wincing in the background because we were watching them go 2 by 2 into turn 7, this group of 6. So it's hard to tear our eyes away from this at the minute as they come through turn 2 for the 8th time in the race. Rasmussen's been squeezed out there by Rosella this time around, and Rosella's going to finally make some sort of position. Finally!
Got Rasmussen making a move on the inside, and Rosella might get caught out here because Woods might try and follow through. He's going to try the long way, is Rosella, and he's not, I don't think he's quite got the run, but the cars in front may just give him a slight bit of slipstream down the straight, but he's not going to have the inside. And as we saw earlier, he's probably going to lose 2 positions with Damon Woods doing a little bit of bump drafting. And they're going to make it 3 wide here into the hairpin. Will they pull it up?
Oh, it's chaos stuff here. It's Woods. It's Rasmussen who gets the ascendancy there. So all in all, they've gone a whole lap and not changed positions once at the end of it, except they've changed like 3 or 4 times. And once again now, Woods with the inside line through the sweeper, but the outside for the hairpin is going to be in a little bit of trouble there. There's a little bit of contact, a little bit more contact. Now, Rosella's going to try and sneak up the inside. Is he going to be able to? No, they finally get it all settled, and then off to start it all again.
Also had just in front of him Liccardo and Nolan also side by side for a large portion of that lap. We see Woods try to make a move into turn 1. I don't really see it there. It's compromising for turn 2 though, and he's going to lose out to Rosella. And now Rosella going to probably be a little bit more circumspect, I'd imagine, here at turn 3, sorry, and try and set something up at the hairpin. But no, he's defensive because he's got Woods right behind him.
Oh, as we've got someone off in the
back
background. That was Nathan Higginson, yeah, you're right, who's just a boulder wide down at turn 2. He still stays in 11th. It's hard to tear our eyes away from this little battle because they're still going at it. This time, it looks like Woods and Rosella have dropped away from Rasmussen this time. Rosella, long way around at turn 5. Not too many moves come off around there, unfortunately for Rosella.
Also seen... Sorry.
No, certainly not. He doesn't. They've tried and sort of failed at that particular occasion there. And where's he running at the moment? He's sort of running 3rd last out of all the RRS cars at the moment. So while his Synergy SimRacing teammates have been able to process a fair bit of the traffic, Nolan's come from a fair way back and has done a good job. And Hobbo's now knocking on the door. He's up to 2nd place and seeing if he can set his sights on Cole Warwick. Rosella hasn't been able to get past these guys. He's finding it a little bit more difficult to run in the same class traffic.
Yeah, it is interesting how the traffic has very much split up the 3 Synergy SimRacing cars. Remember, Rosella he finished 2nd in the first race, and so he started ahead of Hobson. And look at it now, and Rosella's 8 spots behind Hobson. So a very difficult race for Rosella, at least at this stage. We're taking a look at the Class R leader at the minute, Brock Harvey. He enjoys a 3.5 second margin over this man, Tim Redmond, who's come up 10 places from the beginning of the race, and he's just managed to sneak past Justin Cecil. So now they are 1 and 2 with Cecil in 3rd, and that's Matt Cecil in 4th. And then these two have been attached to the hip all night tonight so far. Steve Warwick and Steve Bolger. It's been very confusing, guys. Very confusing.
It certainly has. And for a little while, they were locked up in there behind Rhodey as well. So they've managed to get past him and put a bit of margin on him as well. Now, the R-Class guys are going to have to be very careful because they're about to start getting woken up. Colin Warwick is not too far off the back of Glenn Miles. And remember, this is what happened last time. Actually, Colin Warwick's gotten past Glenn, and here comes the rest of them now. Now, remember, this is what happened last time. The traffic started to play into the trains here. So if you were caught in a bit of a trolley train and the lap traffic came along, it started to split them apart. So what I'm going to look for now is, can any of the R-Class guys, such as your Luke Rosellas, Scott Nolan, Damien Rasmussen, Damon Woods, can they start using this traffic to their advantage to make a spot?
So this battle pack now was 6 and is now 5. It looks like Brendan Foley's been able to streak ahead and make a little bit of a gap, as Liccardo is the one on the defensive, but they will be encountering traffic, as you made mention, very soon. In fact, a lot sooner than you reckon, because Glenn Miles ran wide at the hairpin as everyone was checking up, and now he's just headed off this battle pack. So Liccardo gets past. Is Nolan going to get past? Yes. What about
Woods? They should all get through here, I think. Yep, they're all going to get through. And it was interesting because Miles was wide because he let Foley and Burke through, and then Burke went deep in sympathy, and Foley said, "Thank you very much, I'll have 4th place." So that was an easy pass in the end for Brenton Foley. So it wasn't intentional for Miles to go deep. He was just caught out on the wrong side of the track when he was letting the traffic through.
So who's the next traffic that these guys are going to have to make their way through? It'll be Steve
It's going to be Steve Burko. Yeah, so Burko in the C7 car is the next one in the queue. And then there's actually a fair bit of a gap up to Turmo and Kemp, the recovering Turmo and Kemp. So if anything to go by last time, you can see the lap time differential is about 5 seconds a lap. So they'll probably get through the lap traffic, probably past Steve Bolger and Steve Warwick, and maybe Matt Cecil if they're lucky. And then that probably will be as far as the race leaders in RS class get to go. They didn't quite lap the entire R class grid in the last race.
I've just got eyes on Turmo and Kemp at the moment. Looks like Turmo's finally making a move on Kemp. Got around the outside at turn 6, now the inside of turn 7. And he's going to sneak his way through. The reason that caught my eye is because I saw a car off in the background, which was Rhodey. Who had gone deep at turn 5.
It's the favoured hotspot for going in a little bit too hot. There are some brake marker boards and reference points down there, so it should be pretty easy. With a yellow flag in the first sector, but I'm wondering if that's just for the cars that are in the pit lane. There is a known issue with the track if you've got cars in the pit lane that are stationary, that they end up being there. Is that Brock Harvey?
Brock Harvey's blown an engine.
Oh, no.
That'll be what it is. So he must have blown it on the... Did he blow it on the approach to the pits?
No,
yeah, he did.
He's coming through turn 2.
Yeah, so he's blown it near the pit. So that's what the yellow flag was for. It was for Brock Harvey pulling over at turn 2. So that's 2 in this race. 1 to Brock Harvey and 1 to Lockie Lock. And, well, Lewis, you did say we were going to see it.
Yeah, Lockie Lock I'm seeing in the live chat was down to his steering wheel going from 4th to 2nd down the straight. I did catch a replay of that, and, well, they'll do it every time. Brock's one has to be constant, just using the engine to slow down. Because in the middle of that corner, I'm guessing he's gone to slow down and pull it up, and it's just gone because he's done it one too many times, and RPM's just a little bit too high. But big battle now for 6th place. Got 2 ERT cars, and Scott Nolan is a bit of a punching bag at the moment.
And he's caught on the wrong side of the equation here as well. He's on the far side.
Sorry, at the hairpin, it looks like Luke Joyner trying to pass Glenn Miles has actually sent Glenn Miles into the gravel, or is just Miles gone straight off? He's gone straight off, so he's in the gravel at turn 5. So that means that's going to be a yellow flag when this group gets around to it.
Now, Hobbo had started to reel in Colin Warwick a little bit. He got the gap down to 2.3 seconds, but the traffic's been very kind to Colin Warwick. He's caught it at the right time, so on the straights, and been able to get the moves done before the corners, whereas Hobbo's being held up here now. He's had to pass Kemp, and now he's had to go the inside route on Turmo, and they've done a really good job of letting him through there, but that's going to cost him probably at least 2 or 3 tenths of a second, and probably might put him out of commission for challenging for the top spot now.
It's 2 laps left. We've still got that car off at the hairpin. Glenn Miles just sitting there. So that's meant that there's still a yellow flag at turn 5, which means you can't pass traffic. And these guys are all going to be coming into that section, seeing that yellow flag, and they're all committed to moves already as they try to file around. They all get out of it easily enough, but that's very complicated there for that group as they start to encounter more traffic in the form of Darren Kemp and Turmo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few protests being filed about some of the passes down there. That looked like there might have been 1 or 2. Hopefully they've sorted themselves out on the other side of the hairpin. Race leaders now start the penultimate lap, and what's his margin at the moment? It's 2.3 seconds still. So it's pretty much remained status quo, and he is catching the back of Bolger, Warwick, and Matt Cecil. So I was right. He's probably going to get through the top. Going to be just avoid lapping the top couple here. But yeah, so Bolger's wide here and lets him through. And Warwick should have the legs in a straight line here to get past his father. And on top of that, Matt Cecil as well before they get to the hairpin. And remember, use him as the slipstream though. This
is for 4th place in... he's in the yellow flag section though. So we've just caught that on camera. He's gone straight through under yellow flag because Glenn Miles is still sitting there. So I wonder if that'll get picked up because it's a lap traffic pass. But remember, that's for 4th.
He's nearly out, actually. He's just got to get the rear wheels going, and he'll be mobile again. So he's mobile now. So he's just doing his best to feed on as best he can.
And that's going to complicate things. Look at this group of 5. He's split between them. Oh, there's the crash.
He's caught Liccardo out.
And how Liccardo managed not to spear straight back into Rasmussen, I'll never know. But Liccardo really was just the unlucky bystander there. Miles was completely unaware that he was being overtaken on both sides, and was unfortunate enough to make contact with Liccardo. But look at this group now as they come through onto the main straight to start the last lap.
Yeah, Liccardo, that one sadly won't be his fault, but that one I can probably have an understanding why he might feel aggrieved.
Oh, and Foley's around. Foley's around at turn 2.
So he's out, and he'll have to be careful on the rejoin here as well, and so too Steve. Have a look at the cars behind us. 3 RS cars, 3 wide, trying to get past... Who's that? Is that
Darren
Steve
Kemp.
Bolger and Bolger in the mix as well? This could get ugly. Woods is in there. Nolan's pushing and shoving a little bit. And Lockie Burke's in there too. Somehow they get through turn 3.
I'm not so sure they're going to get through turn 5 just as cleanly as they come down through the sweeper at turn 4. There is Turmo just ahead of Foley as well. He gets out of the way, but then there's this big angry battle pack of Rasmussen. Burke's gone straight through.
And Burke went straight flying through. Rossi, I think, had done a tyre because there was an awful lot of smoke coming from the front end of that RS. And then all of a sudden, Lockie Burke arrived on the scene and it was like he went into the stratosphere.
And the leaders are coming through the final corner. It's not going to be much. Warwick over Hobson as they come to the line. It's going to be very, very close, but Warwick takes the victory just ahead of Brendan Hobson, who, remember, started second to last in the RS class. Then here comes the next group. Foley from is that Damon Woods? It's going to be Foley, and then Nolan, and then Rosella who come across the line. It will be the wild card of Rasmussen, who comes home in 6th. Dane Liccardo coming home in 7th. Nathan Hingerson in 8th place. Lachlan Burke is stranded out on the side. I reckon he blew his engine on the entry of that corner. That's why he's ended up there. Luke Joyner's going to come home in 9th. Brendan Ross is sans a tyre, it looks like, or very much sans a sense of humour in the gravel trap of turn 5. And it looks like our R-Class winner will be Tim Redmond, who's coming through the final section of corners now. That was a powder keg that was just waiting to burst, and burst it did right at the very end of the race.
Yeah, it all came together in one big firecracker right at the end of the race. Now, there are a couple of drivers that are just trying to get themselves across the line. So Brendan Ross was trying to dig himself out of the sand trap, and he has done so. So he'll get to the line. At least he'll start in progressive grid, because this is very important, because if you're buried, you don't want to be buried in the R-Class cars. So, and I reckon he has done a front left tyre, I think. Car doesn't want to turn right very well. So wondering if the 2 times tyre strategy here is starting to have a bit of an issue, or whether some of the drivers have gone for maybe some too aggressive camber settings or something. I'm not quite sure why. We've seen a couple of tyres go already this week.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I wonder as well how much of that is due to damage, as we've got Justin Cecil coming across the line for 2nd place in R-Class, and Matt Cecil will be 3rd. So great work from the Cecils after Tim Redmond managed to work his way through the field. Steve Bolger 4th in the R-Class, then Turmo, Darren Kemp, Steve Burko, Rody, Scott Nolan a DNF at the end of that race, Lachlan Burke also a DNF. And it was just an absolute madhouse there right at the very end. We've got some updates from the live chat as well. Short Shift Motorsport Podcast, which is Brock Harvey, saying that he bumped the gear lever in the middle of turn 2, which is why he blew his engine. And we caught an onboard replay of that as well to confirm that was what happened. And Brian Walsh saying that his game crashed to desktop, which is why he DNF'd. A wild finish to that one, lads.
Yeah, very, very wild finish. I'm surprised. I heard the crashing on the start-finish straight, and I wasn't quite sure what had happened. And then it turns out Scott Nolan had hit the wall, I think, then. I'm not sure if he got tagged or what happened there, but it was obviously a very, very interesting finish to the end of that race. I still don't know where to look. The reverse grid format for each class definitely threw up a few issues, I think. And I think there's a few people that handled it pretty well. So Brenton Hobson handled it very, very well. Again, the whole patience is a virtue thing, just waiting and waiting and waiting for your opportunity to strike. And at the very end, he very nearly got there. I'd actually written him off with 2 laps to go, and he just got to the rear bumper of Colin Warwick and couldn't go any further because the finish line just came along at that last few seconds.
Yeah, a great fighting battle from Hobson. He has a habit of doing that. It's something we noticed back when we were doing TCAC streams as well. When we had random grid races, every single time he'd just find a way to process through the field in a safe way, find gaps that other people's couldn't, and then all of a sudden he'd be right out the front of the field and be plugging away.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He found a way to do that, but I'm still a bit perplexed as to how the tyres are popping. I'm sure there'll be a few drivers that are a bit concerned about that, and maybe just driving it a little bit too hard. We've seen trails of smoke. We've seen, people out breaking themselves, people off in the gravel trap. So a few drivers maybe just going at 11 tenths instead of maybe 9 or 10 tenths, and maybe bringing themselves undone in the process. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of feedback coming from this after the final race tonight.
Absolutely, and the final race, just as a reminder, is progressive grid from race 2, which means that Colin Warwick and Brendan Hobson will be your front row, and then they'll have Brendan Foley and... Oh, I can't even remember.
Foley and Damon Woods behind them. So that'll be how that feels. Now, very, very importantly as well, with Brendan Ross finishing, he's actually going to be planted between Tim Redmond and Justin Cecil. He's going to be in 11th. Redmond finishes 10th. Justin Cecil finished 12th after all of that. So Rossi's going to be he's not going to be too far off the back of the front row, off the RS cars, but he's going to have a lot of work to do. And then you've got Lockie Burke and Scott Nolan are going to be buried
Absolutely.
in the RS class cars in the R class cars because they were a lap up on them, but then they went with the DNF. So they're going to have a little bit of work to do.
And we'll be able to see all of that coming from race 3. We're going to take a quick little break here on Endurance Chat Media. Join us in about 2 or 3 minutes for the lead in to race 3 this evening. And welcome back to round 1 of the Australasian Sim Racing Super Series. Here with Steve DeVries, Netherrealmian. Nether, it's been quite an action-packed night of racing so far. Even just race 2 on its own had a massive battle pack in the RS class throughout the entirety of the race. So with the progressive grid, are we expecting the same again for the last race?
I think this one might be a little more tame, if I'm being brutally honest with you. The grid positions have been sorted out. I'm not expecting the faster guys that had a little bit of a lack of patience in the first race to be present. I think that the faster cars have slowly started to make their way through the field. They're probably not all quite up the top end. There will be a couple of guys with some work to do a bit further down the field. So Brendan Ross and Scott Nolan, who were non-finishers but were ahead of the the R-class guys, are going to have a little bit of work to do. They're going to have to process some of those cars before they can even think about getting onto the back of the likes of Hobbo and all those guys that are a bit further up the chain ahead of them. But I think it sets up for a nice finish. Hobson and Colin Warwick off the front row for the RS class. R class is a little bit mixed, I think. There's probably Tim Redmond is at the pointy end of the field. He might sort of march away a little bit with it, but I'll be interested to see what happens behind him.
Yeah, especially considering the likes of Turmo ran into big problems in that race. Brock Harvey was leading and then blew his engine, so he will certainly be looking for some sort of redemption. And a few of the other guys that we were expecting up the head of the our field are going to be in an odd position, not least of which Steve Burko, who's unable to complete the round, unfortunately had prior commitments and has had to step away from the night, so he won't be able to battle right up the front like we were expecting after his pace in race 1.
No, that'll be a bit sad, and I believe he has actually got some work commitments and stuff going on as well. I know he's missing the upcoming round this week for supercars at Sydney Motorsport Park. There's a few people that have started to pick up some work as the pandemic starts to die down a little bit, and a few other bits and pieces going on. A lot of people in some industries where they're just required. So he's unfortunately stepping away for that one, and I can probably understand too. If you've got prior commitments, that's where your mind is. You've got to go and get those done. There's a little bit of an unfinished business for a few of these drivers tonight. I think a few of them have had some weird nights, been caught up in some incidents that have not really sort of been their fault. Where do we go from here? Who do you think's got the unfinished business that they need to maybe they want to make an exclamation point in this next race by having a good, strong finish?
Well, I think Dane Liccardo, first and foremost, would be pretty miffed at getting wrapped up in traffic right near the end of that race. So expect some Dane dive bombs at some point in this race. I think because of the fact that it's the last race of the night and everyone's looking to be a hero, we might see a little bit more craziness, maybe. Hopefully not more craziness, but it's unlikely that anyone's going to be leaving anything on the table as we're just finishing the warm-up session and should be ready to go to the grid very shortly. I think one or two drivers are just out on laps, which is why it's taking a little bit of time. What about you, Nether? Who do you reckon is going to be the one setting the stage alight tonight?
I actually think you hit that on the head pretty well. I actually think it will be Dane Liccardo that probably wants to prove a little bit of a point, wants to move a bit further up the field. I've got a funny feeling Turmo has a little bit of unfinished business after that race as well, caught up in the incident that wasn't any of his fault whatsoever. And he had a good turn of speed in that first race to get the win ahead of Brock Harvey and Steve Burko. I think Turmo to look to maybe consolidate his night or turn his night around with a top 3 finish in this next race.
And we've seen Dane Liccardo do some incredible passing through a field. Both of us very recently, in fact, the supercars at Ipswich, he had a rear grid start penalty and almost managed to take the lead of the race at one point with some great moving. So certainly keep an eye on Dane for the last race of the night. I think Turmo has been one of the best pace setters in the R class, maybe alongside Tim Redmond. So he's got a bit of work to do if he wants to get onto the tail of Tim, who starts from the R class pole. And once we manage to get the field ready, it looks like we're heading into it now. Perhaps? Yes,
Yep,
indeed,
we
we are.
We are indeed crossing over into the third race of the night. These 40k sprints go very, very quickly. Surprise, surprise. 16 laps doesn't sound like it sounds like a lot on a track like this, but then you look at the timer and you sort of go, well, they're doing a minute 15 at the front per lap, and then the R-Class guys are doing a minute 20. So 16 laps, the race is over and done with in sort of just over 20 minutes.
It is very quick fire stuff for the Super Series. That's why it is so damn super, right?
That's why it's called Super Series, because it's, yeah, exactly. It's like a superhero. As I blink and you'll miss it.
Absolutely, and we're definitely not going to miss it because I've got the right button. So we're on screen now, just waiting for the last cars to fill the grid. Of course, there will be a vacant spot for Steve Burko, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to position 17. The last cars making their way in, and it looks like we'll be ready any moment now for the formation lap. Are we? Oh, I should turn on the game sounds as well, just to make sure that you get to hear the beautiful Lancer engines. It will be Colin Warwick leading us off for the last race of the evening as the winner of race number 2. He has Brennan Hobson for company, the winner of race 1, rather. So he did a great job of processing the field to end on the front row. Brendan Foley finished third in the last race after a late spin. He just eclipsed Damon Woods on the line for third position. Luke Rosella starts out of 5th. He took a long time to get going in race 2. He shares row 3 with Damien Rasmussen. Dane Liccardo will start 7th. He's got a point to prove after getting involved with traffic in race 2. He's got Nathan Higginson for company on row 4. Then it is Luke Joyner rounding out the first group of RS guys before our Class R leader, Tim Redmond, starting from 10th. And he has Brendan Ross for company in 11th place. Nether.
He certainly does. You were going through it quite nicely there. So you went through to
12th place.
12th place overall with Justin Cecils, and Matt Cecil behind him. So the Cecils had a pretty good second race overall, and Steve Bolger alongside Matt. And then Turmo and Kemp, despite their trials and tribulations in race 2, actually recovered pretty well with all the carnage going on around them, up into 15th and 16th overall, respectively. Then you got Rhodey in 17th, Scott Nolan and Lockie Burke. Now, these are the two guys that are out of place, and these guys are going to have extreme patience to process the half a dozen or so slower cars ahead of them. Steve Warwick in 20th. He was a non-finisher in that last race. So too was Glenn Miles, Brock Harvey, Brian Walsh, Ben Hall, Lockie Locke, and we've got Pedro Denitz at the back, who we know is probably moonlighting as somebody, or somebody else is moonlighting as Pedro Denitz, but we'll worry about that a little bit later on.
That sounds like a classic Lewis Wedding strategy, if you ask me. So he'll start from the tail end of the grid. So we have 25 cars still, even though it's listed as 26, because we are missing the 17th place Lachlan, Steve Burko, or are we? I'm not sure. It looks like we've got
26 cars all up, just one at the back with a gap.
Well,
here we go for the lights. They held him for a long time last time. It's a little bit shorter this time, but it's not enough because Walshy jumps the start. So second jump starter in 2 races, and off we go through turn 1. Colin Warwick got the whole shot, covers off Brenton Hobson into turn 1 very, very smartly. Foley holds on to P3, and then immediately behind Woods under pressure from Luke Rosella as they head down to 3.
It's going to be side-by-side action into the hairpin at 3. Who's going to sneak through first? It might be Rosella, and even a bit further back, Tim Redmond. Look at where Scott Nolan is. He's already past. Oh, and there's a bit of carnage later on. But look at where Scott Nolan is now. He's already passed all of the R-Class cars and onto the tail of the RS field.
He has indeed, and then Lockie Burke's not too far off doing the same thing. He's just got Tim Redmond to get past, and then he will have done exactly the same job. So it hasn't taken them long at all.
Oh,
you were right, there was a little bit of carnage a bit further back in the field, and there's a little bit of a tight squeeze going on down here at the hairpin too.
I think it was Cecil on Cecil action there. Matt just punting the rear of Justin as they came through into the hairpin, but no harm, no foul for the pair of them. They're still sitting very pretty in places 2 and 4 in the R-Class with Steve Bolger in between. But then have a look at the group behind him. Darren Kemp, Brock Harvey up 4 places already. Turmo's down 4 from the start. He had a shocker. He's just fighting off Rhodey for 20th and 19th at the minute.
They certainly are. There was a little bit of coming together at turn 3 on the opening lap. It looked like a bit of a racing incident. Drivers just trying to size each other up and leave a bit of room for each other. A couple got caught out and had to take to the grass. Hobson showed the nose at turn 1, and he's still tucked in behind Warwick. Hasn't been able to make it stick, but Woods now up the inside of Foley for P3. So a couple of changes going on at the top end of the field. Woods through on Foley. Rosella stays in 5th. And then Brendan Ross has made 3 spots. He started in position 11. He's now up to 8th as Warwick going super defensive on lap 2. Going to force Hobson to go the long way round. Leaves him a little bit of room and not very much, but he's going to hold him here because while Hobson's got the inside for this very, very easy left-hander, he wanted to hold him wide for the next part of the corner, but Hobson's got the job done. Warwick needs to send it or he needs to stay in line, and he stays in line.
Unfortunate there for Warwick. Just as soon as he lost the overlap, he was always going to lose that position outright. So now Hobbo heads to the head of the field, and straight away Warwick's under pressure from Damon Woods. We'll jump on board with Damon Woods and have a look at how he's going. That's the view we want. You got Warwick in the view ahead, and then behind is Brendan Foley. He shows the nose. There's a little bit of a touch on Warwick there, but it's all very, very tight stuff as we come through the 3rd lap. It feels like we've already had half a race worth of action. We're only on lap 3 as Woods goes down the inside. A big dive, and we'll make position. Oh, there's a touch as well. It looks like Foley and Rosella were getting into it at the back, and they all slide out the other side to fight on.
And there was a very minor nudge between Warwick and Woods as well. He tried to get the block pass on, tried to park it right on the apex, and Warwick not having any of it as Woods sort of skated through a little bit and got a little bit of a helping hand from Warwick. Nothing in it though. And Warwick's going to hang on to P2. He's going to try and force Woods to do the same thing that Hobson did and better drive. Good drive from Woods out of the hairpin, and he's got it done earlier than Hobson this time.
That's 2 and 2 for Warwick, now lost through the outside of the hairpin. So I wonder if Warwick's just having a bit of a struggle getting the tyres to grip up on the exit there as Rosella sends it down the inside of Foley. A little bit of nudge, a little bit of side draft action maybe as they come through the final sector. And in fact, Foley's going to sneak out the other side ahead.
It's 4-wheel drive grip, so what's happened is Woods having the outside line, he's been able to get back to the accelerator a little bit earlier than Warwick and just get the better drive from that wider line. Warwick on the inside line just can't, the car just can't pick up the throttle, and the boost can't come on at the right time to get the drive that he needs. What he was trying to do is hold his competitor wide or on the inside for that for turn 6, and then he'd have the inside line for turn 7 and be able to hold it through the sort of triple chicane. But it's not working out for him. And here we go. There might be another instance about to happen here for Cole Warwick because Brenton Foley is right under the rear wing of car number 53.
And now we're right under the rear wing as Foley pulls out to the outside, and we jump out to the wide angle to see once again around the outside. This time Warwick really forces the issue, and there was a little touch there from Rosella, who just kind of got clamped with nowhere to go as Foley tried to do the cutback. Now Rosella's going to be in trouble to Rasmussen as they come through turn 6. Rasmussen swings to the outside, but Rosella will cover him off and maintain that 5th position. That was a little wild moment there for Foley in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, wouldn't have expected a little bit of a tag there. I think it was an opportunistic Rosella thinking that Foley might have been going to be held high and wide by Warwick, but he didn't quite pull it off, and
I'm just going to
the gap
interrupt you
vanished
there.
very quickly.
Have a look at the R-Class battle. They're going to go 3 wide to turn 7 here. Matt Cecil, Darren Kemp, and Brock Harvey. There's almost a little touch there as Cecil just has to move it over a little bit. Kemp's going to come out ahead here. Look at this, through the last corner. Kemp's on the inside and slides his way through. Well done.
Very good job. Brock Harvey takes advantage of it too as Matt Cecil gets shuffled wide, and that allows Harvey to go through. Harvey's going to get Kemp as well.
Oh,
good drive into the corner. He's on the wrong side here though, and a little bit of door handle banging going on. Harvey's in position here for turn 3 if he can hang on to it. Termo's boxed in. He doesn't know where to go. And then there's a whole gang of them just lining up to pick the bones if something goes wrong here.
Oh, big send from Cecil as we were on board with him. There's a lot of contact with Kemp, but he's managed to sneak out the other side. And Termo's in there as well. They're going to be pushing each other down the back straight through turn 4.
Like Noah's Ark from it here. It's 2x2 as they're going down the back straight through the turn 4 sweeper. Termo boxed in, nowhere to go. Harvey's going to have to try and fend off Kemp. He just tries to thread the needle and it's 3 wide. Matt Cecil can't pull it up. Kemp goes back to the head of this queue. Termo gets caught out as well. Denitz in there. And it all settles down at the end of the day. But that was a wild few corners.
Oh, you can say that again. That was absolutely hectic. And Matt Cecil and Termo are still squabbling over the crumbs as they come into the final section of track. a little bit of madness there in Class R to go along with the madness that we've seen in Class RS.
And what's mad as well is that after 5 laps, Tim Redmond has opened up an 8-second margin on the rest of the R-Class field, if you don't mind. So he's almost got this one in the bag. He could cruise it from here. Steve Bolger in P2, Justin Cecil in P3. Those guys are going to be under threat if this rampaging group headed by Darren Kemp catches up to the back of them. We'll have to keep an eye on the lap times now that it's sort of settled down for a few brief moments. But they're not... Mate, they didn't make any inroads on the last lap. Cars ahead of them are in the 19s. These guys are in the low 20s. So they're going to stop fighting each other and catch up to Justin Cecil, who's the last place on the R-Class rostrum at the moment for this race.
Absolutely right. It's going to be a bit of a battle. We're already 6 laps in at the head of the field, and I've got my eyes back on the battle for 3rd place. Brendan Foley finally making the move on Colin Warwick, but that's now a group featuring Warwick, Rosella, Damien Rasmussen, Dane Liccardo made his way up to the tail end of this group, and then Scott Nolan, remember, from almost the tail of the field, Scott Nolan, 19th place, he's now all the way up into 8th place, up 10 positions, so 18th place, sorry, and he's brought Brendan Ross with him. So this is a quite feisty battle pack for all of the minors in the RS class.
It certainly is. So Brenton Foley occupies the 3rd place on the rostrum, and he's the one that's got the train behind him at the minute. Warwick, Rosella, Rasmussen, Liccardo, and then you've got Nolan and Brendan Ross. The only person that's not in that equation is Luke Joyner and Lockie Burke. They are actually behind, and Nathan Higginson, sorry, they're a bit further back. Here goes Warwick the long way round. That's not going to work.
It was a big late dive, and he's actually lost out to Rosella because of that. So
he covered it quickly too, Rosella. He marched down to the racing line after getting that job done really quickly to make sure Colin had no room to come back through.
And now Rasmussen's going to have a look down the inside of Warwick, who gets hung out a little dry because Rosella was defending. There's a little bit of touch. There's bumper carts action through the final complex of corners. They all managed to sneak out the other side. But at the moment, it looks like Warwick just hasn't got the same pace that he did in the earlier races because he's dropping like a stone.
No, this is really hard racing as well. Not just hard as in hard door handle to door handle racing, but really hard as in difficult racing too, because it's a big long queue of cars. They've all got the same amount of power. They've all got the same braking ability. It's all about the man that sits between the steering wheel and the seat to make this happen.
Through turn 3 they go. It's again, look, it's a group of 7 all the way down.
Yeah, 7 cars covered by what's this? It's about a second. So you don't see this very often in racing, but about a second and a half actually. It just sort of splits apart very briefly as they go through the sweeper, and it all concertinas up again. This elastic gap that we like to call about. Oh, a bit of a bang on the rear from Liccardo and Rasmussen there as well. And so you'll have to give that spot back, and he does.
But that dropped Rasmussen down from, I think it was 5th place all the way down to 8th. So both Brendan Ross and Scott Nolan managed to sneak through thanks to that little love tap.
Yeah, a little bit too hot on the brakes, Liccardo, but he knew what he was doing there. He gave that spot back pretty quickly, and he'll be hung out here for the next couple of corners. Rossi's now taken advantage of Rasmussen's misfortune, held on there. Another little nudge by Liccardo through the final corner, just sent Rasmussen a little bit wide, and we have seen some drivers pick up some track cuts as a result of that.
Oh, another little tap because he's got his nose in, and another. He's trying to switch back, but there was no switch to back onto.
No, not that time around. There was a sort of a passing opportunity through turn 1 that sort of really didn't materialise. Rosella off the road ahead of them at turn 3. He just got a wheel on the grass and just stepped out of line. That's cost him 2 spots. It's cost him to Foley and to Warwick, and it's cost him some margin too. It's put Nolan right behind him.
Have a look at the battle out in front though. Damon Woods and Brennan Hobson. Woods has been hounding Hobson for a lot of time. Not quite on the rear, but close enough to keep Hobson a little bit more than honest. A little bit more honest than Hobson would probably like, truth be told.
Lap times have been very good though for Damon Woods. He's been consistently in the mid-14s for the last 5 laps. Hobson has had a couple of laps in the mid-14s. His last lap was a 15.2, and the lap before that was a high 14, nearly a 14.9. So Woods has been taking a couple of tenths of a second out of him each and every lap. And a little bit earlier, they're now going to start to wake up the lap traffic. Brian Walsh is the first man they're going to come across, and then Glenn Miles is about another 7 or 8 seconds up the road. So they're going to start to wake them up now. And again, does traffic become a factor? It has been a factor in the last couple of races. Is it about to be the same third time around?
Yeah, well, especially if the traffic is battling as fiercely as it is. I've just had a quick look back at the Class R group, and this battle pack for second is condensing quite a bit. So we've got here Steve Bolger, Justin Cecil, Darren Kemp, who's making a dive after very forcefully pushing his way through on Cecil at the hairpin, and then Brock Harvey, who was going in leaps and bounds early on in the race, but now has leveled it out a little bit. Here's Harvey. We're going to jump on board with Harvey and have a look at the rear of the Warwick Automotive Shell V Power car driven by Justin Cecil. Right up in the logo there. In fact, we're inside the model of the car there while we're on board, and Cecil's run just a little wide, and that's going to open up the opportunity for Harvey to swoop around the outside. Cecil's had a great race to survive here up until this point. In fact, he's not giving it up without a fight. Arrows to the apex, and there's contact aplenty there. I'm not even going to try remembering his name. Lewis Wedding's car's in the mix too, and Termo's there as well. I'm surprised that these guys haven't made more of a push towards the front of the group yet.
No, I'm surprised too as well. I'm surprised that Termo hasn't really been able to clear this traffic. He's actually now sort of been content just to sit back there. Oh, it was a little bit of a nudge, and another nudge, and another nudge.
Almost a 1-2 punch there for Harvey, as he got tagged both by Wedding and then by Cecil.
And then by Wedding again, I think, after that as well. Now Termo sees an opportunity with Justin Cecil sort of being nudged a little bit out of the equation there to get past. But he's on the wrong side here for turn 7. And Cecil probably should consolidate through the flip-flop here. So you can see here, it'll switch sides. So Termo will go ahead. And then actually Justin Cecil couldn't hang on. So that's a spot for Termo. And as I said, I'm surprised he hasn't made a little bit more of a march toward the front. He did get caught in that sort of 2x2 sandwich a couple of laps ago, and I think he's just decided maybe just to keep his nose clean and just pick up whatever points he can.
Someone who has kept his nose clean has been Tim Redmond. We catch a glimpse of him here, and you can see no other car in sight at all. The whole back straight entirely to himself. He's got a gap of 7 seconds to the last of the RS cars, and a significant margin, I think something along the lines of 13 to the cars behind him. He's having a great race leading off the Class R category. We return our attention now to this battle for third in RS. Actually, we're going to go to the head of the field, because I just saw out of the top of the shot there, Damon Woods sizing up a move onto Hobson. Didn't quite manage to get it done, but it is looking very, very tense at the head of the field.
It definitely is. It's just an exercise in patience here. And the gap hasn't really opened up yet. He hasn't been able to force Hobson into a mistake, which is a very difficult thing to do. Hobson pretty much on the brake markers at every point, on the apex at every point. No real option for Woods to make a move. What he's got to do is find out which part of the track he's stronger at. He looks like he has good drive out of the hairpin, coming down through 6 and then into 7. And maybe it might be an opportunity here to pass at 7. Here we go. It looking, sizing it up. Hobson leaves him the gap. Just as I was talking, had a good drive out here on the wrong side for the next corner. So he concedes position and lets Hobson go. And away they go again with 4 more laps to go. So I think he knows where the strong point is. He's just got to execute now.
Yeah, you really have to be ahead at the apex of turn 8 in order to hold that position into, at the turn-in point of turn 8 to hold that position into the final corner. We're on board with Damon Woods now, staring at the rear of that Synergy Sim Racing Lancer RS into turn 3. This is where we saw the first inklings of a move sized up last time around. A little bit more of a narrow exit from Woods, trying to get the power on quite early, but Hobson, you just see just a little bit earlier to the throttle and is able to stretch out 2-3 meters maybe of gap before we get into the hairpin. And look at that just ahead. That is traffic aplenty, as these guys are 3.5 laps out from the finish. They're going to encounter all of that very, very shortly.
Called it perfectly. I was about to say the same thing. Traffic next lap. Rhodey will be the first man. Then you've got Lockie Lock, Steve Warwick, Justin Cecil, Matt Cecil and Ben Hall. They're all in a nice little close group of cars. That'll take a little bit of time to work through. As we've actually got 2 retirements in this race. We had Nathan Higginson on lap 8. Lockie Burke has just gone out at the end of lap 11. So 2 RS guys out of the picture for this one. How does the traffic play for the race leaders? We're about to find out, because they're about to wake up the first one.
And just as an aside as well, the gap between these two and the rest of the field is 8 seconds. It's ballooned out over the past 3 or 4 laps as these guys are concentrating on fighting for third. And somehow Colin Warwick's got ahead of that group. So he's really the roadblock, the cork in the bottle for the RS field, as Rhodey is the first, or the second rather, of the R cars to get passed by the lead battle as they start their trek through the traffic.
Woods is much closer this time off of turn 3. Rhodey was hanging around the outside there, and Woods is a little bit closer here. I don't think he's close enough to send it at 3. Sorry, at the hairpin at 5. Not on this occasion, but this has now compromised his ability to have a good run down into turn 7, because look at this. Hobson's having to make it 3 wide to round them up. This actually might be the break that Hobson needs if he can get through the traffic cleanly.
Oh, they've touched! They've touched in the middle! Oh, they almost cleaned up the RS guys! That was, I think, Steve Warwick
and Lockie Lock getting together.
And they're stuck in the exit of turn 8. In fact, Warwick's just gone straight to the garage. He's out. Lachlan Lock's trying to work his way out of the sand trap there.
Oh, it was so innocuous as well. I think it was just Steve Warwick just moved across just a little bit on the approach to turn 7. Lockie Lock's got himself out, though, and got himself going.
We're going to have an onboard replay from Warwick's car. It looks like, it was just as they hit the brakes. There was just
a little twitch. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Just a little twitch under brakes. It wasn't anything malicious. It was just that he was just a little bit too close when the car snapped sideways and got into Lockie Lock. So I don't think that there's nothing wrong. It's not a driving mistake. I just think that that's just one of those racing incidents.
Speaking of racing incidents, check out this battle for second in Class R. It's Steve Bolger, Darren Kemp, Brock Harvey, Lewis Wedding, and Turmo, all separated by less than a second, it seems. They come through the hairpin and onto the back straight, the other back straight. And it's Kemp. He's trying to squeeze his way down the inside of Bolger, who's been in second the whole race for Class R. And in fact, it was Lewis Wedding who squeezed his way through on Harvey, but he's given that away, has he? No, he's not. He's forced it in there, forced it in real hard, and they're going to squeeze out the other side, nose to tail.
There's a change of position going on for RS as well. So Nolan's moved up to third in this race. Foley's now gotten past Col Warwick as well, with the last lap board in sight. Foley goes down the inside at the final corner as well, and now he goes up into P3. So this last spot on the rostrum is really up for grabs between 4 cars now. Rosella's in there as well, and the teammates get together.
That was a huge squeeze as they came to turn 1, with Warwick almost making contact with both SSR cars as they ran
out of the way here. Rhodey's got to get out of the way here because a big angry pack of cars, and what's he going to do? He's done that guess as best as he can without getting off the road.
Yeah, he can't exactly disappear, but once again, this RS class is an absolute madness. 7 cars all fighting very, very close, but the battle out in front, Brendan Hobson, they're in the traffic, they're in the battle for second place in R class as well. So it's all madness here. There's 5 cars separated by a blanket as they come through the penultimate section of corners. Hobson's got just a little bit of a break, but it's not going to be much before he's under pressure once again. There's nowhere to go. Look at this. There's nowhere to go.
It's a last lap as well, so the traffic's factoring into Hobson's advantage here, because there's no way that Woods can get past him with the traffic they're negotiating. So it's going to be another win for Hobson. So it actually played into his favour late in this race, and he'll take a second win for the night out of 3 races. So at the end of the day, traffic was Brenton Hobson's saviour, I think, in that one late in that race, because Woods was charging. He just couldn't find a way through.
And it will be Foley from Warwick, from Luke Rosella, and then Scott Nolan, Damian Rasmussen, Dane Liccardo, Brendan Ross, and that is the next group of cars to come across the line. Whereabouts was Damon Wood in all that? Oh, yeah, of course, he was in second place.
Third over. He was second place over all of that. So Col Warwick got, after starting on the front row there, went down to position number 4 after all of that. So he really fell into that battle group, and then he got his ears boxed in, didn't he?
Absolutely right. He it was a topsy-turvy battle there, and really, I don't think you could really say anyone won that battle, because they battled so hard for so long that they just let the front 2 jump away. Here is our R-Class winner, Tim Redmond. A very, very lonely race for him, coming home in 11th. And then it will be, I think, just these 2 left on the lead lap, Darren Kemp and Lewis Wedding. So because that lead battle actually broke up that battle for second place, it's going to be a fight to the line in 2 as opposed to in 5. but it will be Lewis Wedding who comes across the line to take second in the last race of the evening, the first round of the Super Series. And Darren Camp, a fighting third place after a very difficult race too for him. To round off that field, it was Steve Bolger who finished 4th, Brock Harvey 5th, Termo, Justin Cecil, and Rhodey, who were the next group. Then Matt Cecil, Glenn Miles, Lachlan Locke, Brian Walsh, the last finisher, and then Ben Hall, Steve Warwick, Lachlan Burke, and Nathan Higginson were DNFs. Jeez, Nether, that was wild.
That was wild indeed, and we're still working out just the class points, just so we know where everybody stands with that one. We might actually grab the top 3, I think, from overall from each class, just so we can see how things are going. So, in our class, leading the championship after the first night of 8 is actually going to be Brenton Hobson with 89 points, very close to a perfect round of points for Brenton Hobson. Just that second in race 2, the only non-race win for him tonight. And then behind him, second place. Actually, I've actually got a tie for. Sorry, I haven't got a tie. We've got a tie for third place. Brenton Foley actually is in second place overall. And then we've got a tie between Colin Warwick and Luke Rosella overall on points. So we might have to drag a couple of guys in for this one. And then we're just still working out who the class winner is in our class. We believe it is Tim Redmond. We're just trying to work out who the last couple of finishers are there, so we can have a chat with them as well.
Well, while you work some keyboard computer magic with that, Nether, I've got our overall round winner in the booth with us, Brendan Hobson. Welcome back. It's good to see you again.
Hey, it's good to be here. Familiar place. It's been a while though.
Yes, it has been. Taking a break after the last TCAC season from ASR. You've come back with a bang, though. 2 race wins and a second place. That is an impressive night's work for you in that number 88 machine.
Yeah, it was a good night. I probably couldn't ask for it to go a whole lot better, really. Only one spot, I guess, in the second race. But I didn't expect to get where I did. And I was worried that, it would, even if with 2 races after that first one, that we might not even get all the way back to the front. It's not an easy track to pass on. They're not overly easy cars to pass in, and there's a lot of things to worry about, like lap traffic, tyre wear, fuel consumption, all that stuff. There's heaps of things that could go wrong tonight. So, exceptional result, really, and far better than I was expecting to do.
And you come away, of course, as the reigning champion of the Super Series, back from its initial running in 2018. How is the series different after the first race tonight? Is there anything major that you've noticed, or is it just more of the good stuff?
Oh, it hasn't really changed a lot. There's a lot of new names, a lot of unfamiliar faces to me. A lot of people have jumped on board and started running in AMS since I last raced in it, which is cool to see. It's good to see the community still growing, and that's probably the main difference, though. I think most of the other stuff is the same. It's taken me a while to refamiliarize myself with the platform, but it's all sort of as I remember it.
Fantastic stuff, and you certainly remember how to win races, because you've done a great job of that tonight. Congratulations on your 2 race wins and your overall round lead, Brendan Hobson.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for putting on a broadcast, and thanks to the guys that run the series. It's cool to be back.
It's cool to have you back. It's great to see that number 88 at the head of the field once again. Second for the round, I believe, if I remember correctly, was Brendan Foley.
Correct. It is Brenton Foley. He is here. So, Brenton, Supercars hasn't really been kind to you this year, but you had a pretty good run the last time you were in the Super Series, and, well, you're up the pointy end again. Second place after night 1 is a good starting point.
I wasn't aware that I was second place overall, but I've finally got my stuff together and put in a couple of decent races and finally got some results this year. Because, as you said, this year hasn't been the greatest, but still loving it as always.
Yep, certainly are. And the livery much the same as what it was back in 2018, with a couple of minor tweaks. I mean, we know you're a Red Bull fanboy day in and day out. So you've just done a few little updates to make the car look a bit closer to what the current supercar is in real life. PBF colours, or the Red Bull colours, very, very familiar in AMS circles for the last 4 years. But we're going to see something different at some point?
I'm not sure. As you said, I am a bit of a Triple Eight fanboy, and I just love the colours and how they work with deliveries. So, yeah, fixed up the few things that I wasn't happy with it, because I always find things that I'm not happy with my liveries, and fixed up a couple of things and thought I'd bring back the livery for this series. But I love spec series racing. I may not be the fastest out there, but it's a hell of a lot of fun when everyone's in the same sort of kit, same sort of setup.
And that's the sort of avenue that I think the other guys at ASR have been going for, is the spec series, trying to keep it as level playing field as possible and let the drivers sort themselves out. And granted, in the series there is open setups, but there is an option there for, as I said to Flood before, it's all about the man that sits between the steering wheel and the seat to do everything when you're in a spec series. So it really sort of shows the driver class, doesn't it?
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I can only speak for myself, not really everyone else, but I know that with times being as they are, some people get time to do 100 laps of practice, and then there's people like me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that does 0 until the night. So life gets in the way, but spec series is a really good way to kind of let everyone kind of have a bit of pace and a bit of success. So it was a lot of fun.
Certainly is. Well, second place overall in the night is nothing to be frowned upon, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks very much.
All right, now our attention here, Flood turns to Cole Warwick, and we're probably going to give him this one. I mean, there is a tie on points between himself and Luke Rosella, but he has got the tiebreaker, which is the race win. So technically he's in third outright, so we'll go to Cole.
And it was a cracking night of racing from you, Cole. First getting the good position off the line in the first race, and then holding on against a late barrage in the second race to take a race win. But I really want to talk about that third race. You were under the pump throughout the entire race, and that pack battle was just some incredible stuff. How do you feel after that?
Pretty tired, to be honest. I had shit tyre wear. Sorry for the language.
It's fine.
So I tried a bit of wing, and yeah, it didn't work. I was so slow in a straight line. So yeah, that's why it sort of brought me back a bit to the pack, and couldn't recover from there. And yeah, it still chewed up the tyre. So I don't know. I did 3 laps earlier today to check that the mod was right, and then I just jumped in and yeah, had a go.
Straight into the fire. How about that pack racing though? There was at one stage 7 of you all separated by less than 2 seconds across the group. How do you face the intensity of a battle pack like that for as long as you were in one for tonight?
Just sort of eyes forward, and if look in your mirrors. If someone goes for a pass, then give them the space, and if you go for the dive, then hope that it stops. So that's pretty much how I approach it. Yeah, other than that, I really enjoyed tonight. That was quite fun to just jump in and drive something.
Well, it was certainly fun for us as well in the Combox. Coming away with a race win and third overall. How do you rate your night's performance?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I've never driven this car or anything until today. So yeah, to jump in and be competitive was actually really surprising. So
yeah, well,
yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah, sounds like a good night's work. We'll see you hopefully in 2 weeks, and congratulations on your third place overall for the evening.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
So that was our R-Class points leader as well, coming out of tonight as well, and with a comfortable advantage too. So Tim Redmond has got in as a wild card, Tim, and you've got a 15-point advantage over Termo and a couple more points back to Darren Kemp and Steve Bolger. But 2 race wins in 4th place, and race 3 there, you pretty much you cakewalked the field.
I did, yes. I knew going into it, for some reason I seemed to be a lot more pace than a lot of the other drivers. And I guess going into that last race, so, starting ahead of some of the RS cars as well, I needed to be focused. I needed to not make any silly mistakes and still be really quick. And I want to give some massive credit to those RS drivers around me, because they were very patient with me as well, and that worked out really well. But yeah, just keeping head down, trying to just see if I could keep up with them as much as possible in the end. I think I was looking at the timer sort of halfway through, and the guy behind me in the R class and the guy in front of me in the RS class, and so I was trying to keep it there as much as possible, just for a bit of fun, just to sort of to have fun with the night. So yeah, I mean, it worked out. It was great. I managed to finish cleanly, which was really cool.
And it was very important you mentioned about those RS guys. There were a couple of them buried in the pack at the beginning of that third race, and they didn't take long to get past everybody. But you're right, patience is, I guess, a virtue for those guys. If they get buried in the field, they have got to be very careful picking their way through the field. And obviously, you've given them a big pat on the back for doing it, and doing it in a very, very nice fashion as well. So it didn't upset anything going on in the race. They got you at a very good point, I think, as well, sort of up the back straight, where you didn't really have to worry about fighting them too much, and then you could just sort of put your head down and get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we were all quite patient with each other, so it worked out really well. And I really looked for those opportunities that would give them less of less of a disadvantage by passing me, where we could. And same goes for me as well. At the end of the day, we're racing, we want to try and minimize that time to the finish line. So, yeah, as you say, worked out really well. So, like I say, massive credit to those guys. They did really well to pass me. Given I was in a slower car. Also, I want to give a special shout out as well to Darren Kemp tonight. He, in the second race, I think it was, gave me a bit of fun, and was his usual defensive self, and but he was very clean, and we had a good race together, and he made me work really hard for a pass. So special shout out to Darren Kemp for that. That was awesome.
Yeah, big shout out to Kempy, because he's actually starting to take over that defensive driving moniker from me as well. So he's the hardest man to pass in what is now Australasian SimRacing. So good to see Kempy's up in equal third overall on the point standings at the moment, and you're at the head of the field. We might hopefully see you as a bit more of a more permanent fixture in the coming weeks.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. I think the only reason why I didn't sign up full time is I didn't know if I could commit to every Wednesday night, I think it was. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, and hopefully I can make the rest of the rounds and give the guys a run for the money.
Beautiful. Congratulations on leading Class R after the night one.
Thank you.
Flood, back to you.
It was a cracking night of racing in both Class RS and R. What stood out to me most now, there was the crazy pack racing in both classes. There was nothing to separate a bunch of drivers all at once. Do you reckon that's going to become a fixture of the season? Was that a fixture of the season in the last Super Series?
Well, it was a little bit different in the last season that we had, because the cars were slightly modified. Actually, back in the day when Brock Harvey was still doing a lot of the modding work for the community, there was some extra power applied to the cars. There was a little bit of some weight balance stuff done as well. So they were a little bit more different compared to stock. The cars we're running at the moment are a bit more stock, and I think maybe gives a little bit of that edge, or sort of takes it in a direction where it creates a bit more pack racing. When you have a look at the tracks that are on the calendar as well, the longest two tracks that we have are just on 3 kilometres long each. So Winton at 3 kilometres even, and Manfield at 3.03 are the two longest circuits on the calendar. Every other circuit is sort of about 2 to 2.5 Ks long. So I think we're going to get not only a lot more of this pack racing, we're going to get a lot more of this lap traffic racing as well.
It's going to be something certainly to look forward to. Of course, there's the calendar up on the screen now. The next round will be in 2 weeks' time at Wakefield Park. Join us again on Endurance Chat Media. Nether, thank you very much for your company this evening. And thank you also to Lewis Wedding as well for his help tonight. And thank you very much for watching. I've been Michael Zalavari on behalf of everyone in Endurance Chat Media and Australasian Sim Racing. Peace out.